So what are we going to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on the forums.
And this is Parker. Go by Tweak.
This is Jeremy. Go by Inhumans / better than A-Force / hashtag.
What are you talking about?
We figured it out definitively, Brandon. Inhumans are better than A-Force.
I don't know. I literally don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my god. You know, you felt it.
Explain to me. I literally don't know what you're talking about.
I beat your ass the other day. With Inhumans.
When?
Oh my god. It
That
just didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Blacked out, woke up. Models were on the floor.
Jeremy, if you think we played a game, that definitely did not happen. Did you have a dream about us playing a game that you won?
He can neither
It's
confirm
on video.
nor deny.
Did you delete the video? You better not have deleted the video.
I don't know what you're talking about. If video was lost, I certainly have no knowledge of it.
Oh my god. Never mind. Hashtag he fucking creates a future of his own.
Yeah. I am the storyteller. I have control over the narrative. Jeremy, however, I do think you signed in incorrectly. You need to say your full forum name.
What was it?
Jermagar
Constagon.
Jermagar, yeah. Jermagar Constagon. Jermagar
Constagon.
Constagon.
Follower of non-forums and
Yeah.
Got it.
Also, Parker, about your forum name, you say you go by Tweak. I have literally never once seen Tweak next to your name. It's always One Who Parks.
Yeah, it is.
Or Parker.
It is. The forum.
So I don't know why you say I go by Tweak. Is this like your attempt to not get noticed online? It's like if I tell them all, it's different.
All of the forum names I've ever put in, all the forums have ever been Tweak. And since we always talk about the forums, but no, for almost every profile thing, if they ask me for a profile, I almost always put in One Who Parks. But on forums, I always put Tweak.
So basically, dead media. For all dead media, you use Tweak.
Yep.
But everything else that's actually usable, you do One Who Parks.
Yep.
He's mocking you, yet he has a Hotmail address.
He does have a Hotmail.
Yahoo. He's got
Hotmail.
He's got
Dude,
America
Hotmail,
Online CDs.
Hotmail was the shit. All I'm hearing is all of you guys sold out when they came out with new email things. I stayed strong.
you have company loyalty to your email.
No, I have zero loyalty to Hotmail. I just have never bothered to change it. I have another email address that I do not check that I made when I think I was in 6th grade. And it is just spam mail hell. I put it in when I don't want to put in my real email address. When it's like, would you like to sign up for our newsletter? I'm like, no. It was like, you have to create an account to view this video. I'm like, all right. I just put that in. And all right, cool. I cannot manage to forget the password. I couldn't tell you the password to my Facebook or my actual email address or any of that shit because I never actually type it right. It's always just auto log in. Mm-hmm. And so, but I will never forget the fucking password to my first email account. I cannot forget it. I've tried and it just sticks with me. All right. So moving on to announcements. Now that was fun. Much like last week, unfortunately, my work schedule is about triple normal right now. So I have had zero time to edit anything, videos or podcasts. Unfortunately, this is being recorded. I still have not edited last week's podcast. I barely have time. I have to drive straight home to do the podcast and then basically go immediately to sleep. And so it's been not great. But we'll get past it. It's fine. Whew. So moving past announcements, that brings us to news. News.
So news. This week we've got a couple reveals. Last week we had Deadpool's panel to play. This week we've got Bob, Agent of Hydra, He has been revealed in a panel to play. We don't know exactly what stats he has. Apparently they're bad. That's the first thing we found out, is that his stats are probably bad because he's just some guy. But what he does lack in physical prowess, according to the article, he does have excessive violence, which is the big bazooka on his shoulder. We know that it's range 4, strength 9, and double explosive. So it causes 2 damage to everyone within the vicinity of his target. I love that when he does it, also, it throws him backwards. It's a throw.
Yeah.
So if he hits something with his throw, he takes damage.
Yeah.
And it's a 0 cost attack. However, it does cost a loaded token. So he gets loaded tokens.
I don't think they actually say it costs 1 loaded token. It says it costs loaded tokens.
Yeah,
there's some. I don't know. I don't recall precise wording saying how many, but they do go into how he gets them, and it is not easy.
Yeah. It costs an action and 8 power. Dude.
Yeah.
Called Make It Spicy, Bob.
Power.
8 power.
But he has another rule that allows him to start with a loaded token called Muy Caliente.
Yeah, Muy Caliente. So he does start with at least 1. So if it costs 1 to shoot, maybe he can shoot it once. But he's got to get 8 power to do it again.
Yeah.
He also has, we don't know how he stays alive because apparently his stats are really low, but he has the ability called He's Alive, but how? ? Exclamation point. I really like that rule. I hope, I've already talked about how I really hope it's a randomized, like luck-based thing. Like if he takes a damage, you can roll to negate it, or if he's about to get not KO'd or flipped.
Yeah, like it
negated.
It could be like response to being KO'd, spend 2 power, roll 1 die, and on a wild you don't die, or like something weird like that.
Right.
I'd hope it's not just an automatic response random chance. I don't want infinite tough rolls happening in this game. I don't want that to happen. I do hope it revolves around healing, so that way Grievous Wounds can interact with it, because Grievous Wounds really needs another reason to get played.
Yep. So what are your guys' thoughts on
Yeah.
Bob? What do you think?
I think the only question is his point cost. I think he does pretty much exactly what we thought. His damage is higher than I expected, but the loaded tokens are harder to get than I expected, so that's probably fine. And as we've talked about, like a single 9-die attack that doesn't have rerolls, like that's not particularly terrifying. It's good, but it's not like, oh god, like I think Magneto is still scarier than that.
The fact that he does 2 damage, just for my edification, that does 2 damage even to the primary target, right? So you're minimally doing 2.
I don't believe so.
Oh, the explosive is just
the
to others?
explosions are always other people, yeah.
Okay.
It's the explosion part that's horrifying.
I mean, this obviously, yeah, the auto 2 damage, but like we have auto 2 damage in the game. Like Punisher just does 2 damage to everybody within 1 of something, and it's an action. Like he doesn't even have to roll dice.
Yeah.
So like
Green Goblin.
Yeah,
Mystique.
that is noticeable. It's not nothing. It's definitely important to know. I just don't know that it's like, you know, the thing. It's going to be good. The question is, how many points is he? If he's 2 points with a 9-die attack, I mean, even if he only shoots it once, he's probably making his points back. And also, he's going to get dazed at some point, right? So he's going to get more power at some point.
Unless he has 3 health.
The interesting thing is that when he throws, when he throws himself, he could throw himself off of a point, and so even just shooting could actually mess up your like ability to score with him. Like it's interesting. I like a lot of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, an interesting version of Rocket is cool. You know, just a different version of Rocket.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
So
also the concept that you could move forward, shoot somebody, and throw yourself back onto the point.
Yeah,
like that would be funny.
Or even
or into somebody.
You're like, you go through it into somebody. You could also zigzag kind of. You could like
I was gonna
do
say,
kind of a funny angle.
Yeah, you could like try and throw yourself out of range. The Yoink card becomes obviously a lot more valuable knowing that like, how important those ammo tokens are. Like being able to steal an ammo token makes that not irrelevant. Also, we don't know for sure that Deadpool doesn't have a mechanic with aim token or loaded tokens. Like he could have something with a loaded token, and so like him stealing the loaded token might interact with his rules as well. Probably not, but it's possible.
Yeah.
No, yeah, Bob's pretty much exactly what I kind of expect him to be, but even more to the extreme, which I like extremes, so I'm happy.
Other news, we got unboxing of the Infinity War. What do you call that? Is it like an event? It's an event, right?
It's a league kit.
League kit. That's right. So the Infinity War League kit, and Brandon, you watched the video more closely than I did. I skimmed it mostly looking for the model reveal towards the end of it, which we'll get to in a second. But what kind of cool things?
Was it one?
Yeah. The fact that he had the model gives us a little bit more news.
Oh, well, we've seen the model.
Yeah, but we didn't know when it was coming. We've speculated about when it was coming, so maybe that
yeah,
shows us
the fact that he is being painted means that they're not that far away.
right.
So that's exciting for me. Even if they're not in March, they'll probably be in April.
Without being ambiguous, listener, it's Quicksilver. And during the Infinity War reveal video, they also pull out a Quicksilver and he paints it. We don't get any other information other than it is Quicksilver. But what other kind of Infinity War reveal stuff did we see in there, Brandon? What is some of the cool leak stuff?
So they did confirm the kit will be available in March. And the kit is a league kit that gives you supplies for up to 8 players. And so for every increment of 8 players, you will need 1 event kit. The event kit is actually kind of important. If you've played in War Machine leagues before, because a lot of our players have come over from War Machine, they had the same concept where a league kit would host up to 8 players. It's actually absolutely important that you have a kit for every player. And so if you don't have a kit, you basically don't get to play. And so if you have 9 people, you probably need 2 kits, or someone has to do a lot of photocopying. Basically, the event is everyone in the multiverse is trying to mad dash to get the Infinity Stones and to take over the power of the Infinity Stones. So you'll get a card that is for your player, and then you'll basically, as the event goes on, it's supposed to be a 3-week event, I believe, you will gain mastery over the Infinity Stones as you play. And so there's a sheet of stickers every player gets. There is the character card that everybody gets, or not the character card, the upgrade card everybody gets. The upgrade card, basically, as you play, every week you'll gain mastery over one of the stones, and there's multiple options for each stone. And so, like, let's say you've gained mastery over the time stone. There's like a 2-paragraph new rule you add to the time stone in your lists. And so you peel that sticker off and you put it on your character card, and now when you play the stone, you have those extra abilities. So it's kind of like the Ultimate Infinity Gems, kind of, in theory. They don't do necessarily the same thing at all, but you're gaining more effectiveness with that stone. And then every week you'll get a new one, and you get to pick from the list of options. Then also, every player will get a new set of scenario cards. There are 3 extracts and 3 secures for each player. You get 1 copy of each for showing up. You get 1 copy of the sticker sheet for showing up. You get the upgrade card. And then the mission cards specifically center around the Infinity Stones. And so it'll be like, there are Mind Stone fragments on the table. You have to collect them and things happen. And then, like, you can use the Mind Stone on people when you have one of the tokens. Stuff like that. They're not meant for normal play. But they said specifically if you get permission, obviously they can be used. They function as a normal mission would.
Okay.
So if you want to play those with your buddies, they're the same point ranges that look like, to me, they range from about 16 to 20 points. There's 3 of each, so you can play with them, but they're the ones you will be using during the league.
So they're not going to be.
Everyone gets those. You get to keep those.
So they're not going to be in. But they're not going to be in the official
missions.
Yeah.
Right. They're different colored and everything. They have like the blue space background look to them. And then there's also a bunch of cardboard tokens that you get for the mission stuff.
Good. I'm glad there's going to be more cardboard tokens.
I was going to say,
really
can't be an FFG /
They're event tokens.
That's good. That's cool.
I hate you.
We need more tokens.
Yeah.
So
if I recall, I actually remember seeing the little I can't remember what they're called. It's like amplifiers or disruptors, but it's the things from the Thanos Infinity mission or Ultimate Crisis, and that you use against Thanos. It looked like those came on the token sheet as well. So there might be like an ultimate, like, we have to fight Thanos kind of thing in there. We didn't get to see that.
So the point of the league is that any stone that you have in your list gets stronger over the course, or rather customizable over the course of the league. That's like the the way
They
that it
did-
affects your list building.
Yeah, he was kind of vague about it. I think we have to wait and get the actual cards, but yeah, it explains how it works in the event kit, but basically you will get upgrades on the stones. And it might be that the missions come with the stones and you don't have to buy them, but that wasn't explained very well. It was kind of just like teased.
Okay. Cue Doctor Strange, paging Doctor Strange. I want to
Yeah.
I want to break this thing open.
Yeah.
So I guess that's pretty much our news. Other than, of course, we got a Quicksilver model, so he's likely coming out next or soon with Scarlet Witch.
Right. I'm expecting X-Force, like we talked about, but I could see them dropping the Twins pack and Sinister at the same time. I don't know that they will, because there'll only be 4 boxes, because it'd be Cable and Domino, Deadpool and Bob, the Twins, and then a single box of Sinister. And Sinister might be later, we just get the 3, but that's also obviously be fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that he was in the video, so I kind of assumed it'd be all at once.
I bet it will be all at once. They've set a precedence with putting out that many models at the same time.
And the last 2 releases have only been 2 boxes, so we're kind of behind schedule technically for releases. Not that I'm complaining at all. I like the current release pace.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, we were so waterlogged with models for a while. It was like, oh my god, I can't even get these things assembled in time. And now it's been, what is that? We didn't have anything in December, right? Or was it January we didn't have anything?
January.
We didn't have anything in December.
Or is it December?
So,
Yeah.
second week of November until the second week of March, that's 4 months we got 4 box sets.
Mhm. I'm surprised that they painted Quicksilver instead of a Cable, for example, that kind of thing. That leads me to believe that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch could be in the same time. But
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
But at the same time, I think he painted She-Hulk before we got X-Men, and that was a little bit later.
Mm.
But I mean, obviously, the next release, but at the time, it was still like 2.5 months ahead of release.
Mm.
I just remember when they did the X-Force video, they showed the product code for the Twins, and it was like CP63, and I was like, if I have to wait 6 months for this fucking shit to come out, I was going to be so mad. But it looks like it was just a random number they put on there. I don't know.
Oh, there is one more bit of news that I totally forgot. Updated faction affiliation list got updated when the
true.
Inhumans came out. The only
It was just so long ago.
Yeah. The only modification we got was 2 Inhumans that weren't on the original. Actually, are they on the card in the box? I didn't even look.
Yes.
They are on the card
Okay.
in the box.
So yeah, Beast and Ronan the Accuser are both on there. That makes sense. Ronan is a Kree model, so that's very much part of their mythos. And Beast has been an unofficial guest of the royal family several different times in different timelines. So Beast is constantly around. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Beast is like the whore of the Marvel Universe. He's been on every team, and he's been like on their team as a staunch, like moral support, super important, and everybody likes him. He just goes. He's been everywhere. He's the community bike. I don't know why Beast has been on every single team for extensive amounts of time in this really intense way, but it's true. So Beast, yet another faction. I hope Beast is in every faction going forward from now on.
I don't.
If you're
Yeah,
blue,
what a
you're an
waste.
Inhuman. That's what it is. If you're blue, get over
Yeah.
there.
They probably just didn't realize he wasn't an Inhuman because he has a really dumb power set. Like, what's your power set? I'm like big and hairy, and you're like, cool, you're on our team. You're like, but actually, I'm not an Inhuman.
I didn't smoke any of that, guys. And they're like, no, you look like you did. Just come on over. I dance real good. And like, what do you mean? Let me show you. That's about it. Yeah.
So yeah, there's my
I
news.
think Ronan being added to the Inhumans is actually relevant information.
Ronan
yeah.
being added to anything is relevant. That makes shit scary.
Yeah.
You're like, oh
I'm kind
Lord.
of surprised Captain Marvel didn't get added at by that concept because she's kind of Kree, right? Like she's
Yeah.
technically Kree.
Yeah, like her powers are Kree based for sure. In that way, more similar to Inhumans, right? Because they're regular people just with Kree modifications. So she is very
Yeah.
similar to that. Yeah, it's 100%. You know, if she was an Inhuman, I don't think it would have been that much of a stretch. That's a good question. I don't know why they didn't make her one, other than that maybe she just got on X-Force, so they wanted to, you know, split up a little bit.
Oh, speaking of, she would really like the King of the Inhumans ability, like being able to dump power on Captain Marvel when you don't need it would be great.
Oh yeah.
She would be really good in their faction. That would be good.
Well, you can
Yeah.
do it. You can do that. You would still get her. You can still put power on her.
That's true. She's just not. She just doesn't add to the bonus.
Yeah.
She doesn't get to use a lot of their cards.
Right.
Which I mean, the fact that Ronan can but she can't makes no sense because Ronan's not an Inhuman. He's just Kree.
Yeah.
And she's Kree. There's no difference between her and Ronan. She's just Ronan plus Infinity Stone.
Did you look at the color of their
well,
skin?
I don't know.
It's racist.
I don't know what. I was gonna say I don't know if because in the movies her movie origin is very different than her comic book origin, so I don't know which one they're going
She's
with.
still Kree though, isn't she?
Let me look it up to be sure.
I mean, I know she's technically human, but she has Kree blood. I'm pretty sure that's actually canon.
I'm not gonna tell tales out of school. I'm not gonna guess.
You're not gonna tell people at your local game shop that Lockjaw's actually a human man that was turned into a dog by the Terrigen Mists.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I actually
like that
knew the
story
answer to
better.
that one.
Yeah, Jeremy, maybe you should fact check your bullshit before you go spreading it everywhere.
I spread it to you, and then you told everyone just now. So that isn't my my problem.
And I was immediately like, "Are you sure? I've never read a comic book in my life, but I'm pretty sure that's not right." And you're like, "Hold on, let me Google it."
Yeah, fuck,
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
I
know.
guess you're right.
I'm like, dude, I heard a thing.
I
don't
will
know.
give you that the passage you read to me was definitely very misleading.
Yeah.
And it made it sound like he was a person.
Yeah. So yes, it is what I said before. She was a head security at NASA. She was actually a captain at NASA, and then Captain Marvel, who is really a long. There's been several Marvels in the Marvel
Sure.
universe, but he interacted with her, so that's how she basically found out about the Kree and got involved with them. And she was accidentally subjected to this device, and it mutated her on a genetic level to become a human Kree hybrid superhuman warrior, to be similar to Marvel, just a superhuman warrior. And yeah, that's how it happened.
Because Marvel was the original Captain Marvel, right?
But he was a Kree.
Yeah.
He was a Kree super warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like Ronan, where he's just
Right.
like a badass.
Yep.
Is there a reason Ronan's such a badass other than he's just Kree? Like, are all Kree just that badass, or is he like their Superman?
I don't. Well, Kree do a lot of they do a lot of genetic modification, right? That's their thing. They will mess with somebody to make them the perfect genetic version of something. They're totally fine with the whole. What is that? There's a movie about that where human beings start genetically tweaking everyone, and it's a dark sci-fi movie about that. But the Kree are totally fine with messing with anything in order to get the most efficient kind of most efficient kind of person to create to do whatever job they're supposed to do. And so I think Ronan, he obviously he's a member of the Accuser Corps, which is a group of, think of like judges from Judge Dredd, that like
Yeah.
judge, jury, executioner, also warriors, paramilitary kind of organization. And yeah, in the cinematic universe paints him as kind of a zealot, but in the Marvel universe, he's more of a patriot. Like he's very much a Kree, just a Kree patriot.
Yeah, in the subsequent movies, he's kind of actually shown as just like a Kree warlord, basically, not a psycho.
Right.
All right, so that's probably enough talk about the dumb Inhumans, right? Are we done with that?
Nope.
Pack it, ship
Oh.
it.
Ship it. I'll add it in post. Don't worry about it. I'll add the Inhuman list discussion in post. All right. So Parker wants to talk about Inhumans Theorycraft.
Well,
All right. Well, I just gave you my Theorycraft, which is put in Captain Marvel and just give all your power to her.
my question was, I'm excited to play them soon, And then as soon as I said that, Jeremy was like, I know things about them. And then we decided to hold on to it for the cast. So Jeremy, what do you know about the Inhumans? That
Yeah, Jeremy, what games have you played with Inhumans? I haven't gotten any games with Inhumans yet.
I guess I haven't played.
I believe
any.
this brings us to playing.
I haven't played any Inhumans. I've not seen them. I don't know what they do. Actually, so here's the thing: their front side's really weak, and they're all going to get to their backside pretty quickly. And then what you do with them and that power on the backside of them is kind of where everything's at. And that's
So
big.
this is actually where I said we should talk about this later because I wanted to chime in because I was reading the forums at the time. I don't know how true that is. I mean, obviously it's true with Black Bolt, right? Like there's obviously a massive lopside to his card. I think the rest of them are actually pretty evenly balanced. If you look at their cards, they're about average.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They're average
just-
or less than average, which means that...
No, I'm saying like average, like between the power of their two sides. Jesus.
Oh, sure. But they can't,
Yeah.
like... I mean, they still only get 3 dice, basically, against anything on their defense. So if you punch them hard, they generally fall, and there's not a lot you can do about it.
Sure.
There's no bodyguards.
I was going to point out, because in the game we hypothetically played, I dazed basically all of his characters in one turn. And so all 4 of his Inhumans got dazed on the same round, which I believe was round 2, because it was a very aggressive game. I think we were playing Gamma Wave.
Yes.
So I dazed all 4 of his characters, but then on the following turn, I lose the game because I have no one to activate, because he has priority, everyone's max power, and he's like double activating. I get 1 activation off that turn, I think, before he basically dazes everyone. And then on turn 4, the turn where I'm supposed to bounce back, I kind of flubbed my only important roll of the turn. And so it was just like Valkyrie went into Black Bolt and couldn't do anything. It was just like, all right, well, the game is basically over. But I think that was more of a function of A-Force. A-Force is really dangerous in the early to middle game, and is just completely worthless late game. Because it's basically how many good, efficient, cheap characters can I get in the list and protect all of them with She-Hulk. And as soon as She-Hulk dies, the list just falls apart. And that's like the 4 games I've played. The second She-Hulk goes down, you've lost. If you haven't built an insurmountable lead, the game is over.
Huh.
Because your list is, like, you have a bunch of glass cannons at that point. Like, female characters are designed to be fragile in most games. And that's, you can call it misogynist if you want, but like that's just true in a lot of cases. She-Hulk is obviously really tough because, you know, she's She-Hulk. But then outside of that, like, Angela is your toughest character, and her crowning achievement is have 13 hit points. Like, yeah, she's noticeably above average, but she's also 5 points. So, like, she's supposed to be noticeably above average. It's like, Captain Marvel is your second most tanky character, and once she stops getting power from She-Hulk, she's basically worthless. Like, she doesn't do anything. Valkyrie falls down to a stiff breeze, and it's just like, what now? Like, I've been supplementing my imaginary defense with like selling my future for right now with She-Hulk, because you're stacking damage on her, and eventually she's going to go down, and when she goes down, you know, now all of my pieces start falling.
Yeah.
That's my opinion of A-Force. And so I felt like that might have reinforced the concept of Inhumans being stronger late game. Because I think they are a little stronger late game. But I also think that A-Force is weak late game. So it's just, we played like a self-fulfilling prophecy of a game, which was I super win early and you super win late. So it just made it not interesting.
Yeah. I just wasn't prepared at all to see all my models drop in one turn. That kind of like, I've never played a list that did that. Because nothing seemed like it held up at all initially. But their retort was super strong, and their cards, I liked all the tactics cards. They were pretty cool. And everything just kind of worked together. So, I mean, all the things that you expect to happen kind of happened, in that Medusa has a shitload of attacks, and they're all pretty good. Crystal has a handful of attacks, and don't let her laser beam you. Like, she's got a beam attack that is serious business. And it's really good. The dog does what he does. That I think of everything in the list, Lockjaw is the most complicated and most interesting piece of that list, and probably most people's lists going forward, because of when you have to activate him and the things that he has to do to be worth the 3 points. Because I don't think every list he's worth 3 points.
Yeah. The problem runs into is if positioning becomes not super premium, he's not worth his points.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be situations when the teleport is super vital, and if it isn't, then you're just wasting points.
And you have to also basically have a babysitter with him. Like, if he activates and there's no one within range to get his bonus power, he can't do shit. Like, he only gets 1.
Yeah.
He can't do anything with 1.
Yeah.
So he's a 3-point model that really uses 3+. So even if you babysit him with a 2-pointer, you've got a 5-point package that can be pushed or murdered or thrown or whatever. So the more you look at it, the more complicated it kind of gets. And he's really the only model where every time I would look at the table, I'm like, okay, he's really the piece where I was like, I wasn't sure what was the right way to use him. And I mean, it just happened there in humans, and it all, we were playing Gamma, so everything was wedged together, so it really didn't matter that much. But on a spread out scenario, it could get tricky.
You wouldn't think it...
Yeah, I don't know. I was just going to say about Inhumans, I feel like, unfortunately, the leader of the faction is the guy you would end up cutting from a list if you had your choice. Like, Black Bolt is cool, and I don't think he's bad. He's just very inefficient for points. Like, there's going to be a handful of games where he's absolutely amazing. I think there's going to be even more games where he's kind of meh. And so it's just like, what? Like, what do you do? And so, like, you're locked into taking the expensive model. And then you're pretty much locked into taking Lockjaw, because it's like half the point of the faction, it feels like, is to have that amazing support piece. And now it's like, all right, well, I've got an arguably overpriced model and a model that is support only. So now how do I fill in the rest of my efficiency? And it's just like, well, you add in as many 3-point characters as you can, basically. But that doesn't work in Inhumans because you only have Crystal.
Well, I think, I really think that your list starts at 12 points.
Yeah.
Beast is a thing. I mean, I didn't mess with him, but Beast has tons of movement, but you also have Lockjaw, so movement isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, by the time you're done building your list, you're looking at 5 and 3. It's like 12 points.
I feel like...
Yeah, I would think Ronin would be good with a lot of that stuff, but he's also expensive.
Actually, this is one of the things I considered with Ronin. Because of Black Bolt's ability, I wondered if he wasn't also a really strong target for Black Bolt's ability. Maybe making Judgment happen a little bit more often without the Power Stone. Like, you might be able to actually take him at 4 points. With the Power Stone, he's such a monster, though. He's so much stronger than a 5-point model when he has that Power Stone.
The problem I have with the whole Inhuman leadership ability is that all of your characters need power. It's not like you have a battery that doesn't use their power. Your only argument might be Crystal, but Crystal actually has spend 4, gain an attack action, which is super premium. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to, like, just throw power off of a character. I guess if someone gets absolutely blown up early and you have a bunch of, like, power for damage stuff, then yeah, I guess. But I mean, it just seems very lackluster and inefficient. Realistically, we all know their faction ability is the 1 reroll, right? Like, that's what we're actually talking about.
Right.
Like, if their faction ability is everyone could reroll 1 die always, then that would be better than the one they have.
Mm-hmm.
They just couldn't do that on every character in the game, and so they'd much rather do the power sharing thing.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, there are turns it's useful, but it's not like Storm's ability, which is useful literally every turn of every game.
No, I agree. But for people, I mean, for like myself, and I've said this many times, for me, I like models that allow me to fix my screw-ups. And sometimes the power math is a screw-up on my end. I won't pay attention and I won't do it right. And I'll be one off a lot. And the faction does help with that a little bit, Whereas you're like, oh, I'm one off from throwing, I'm one off from charging, one off whatever, and you can just grab one and go. So it's nice for that.
Yeah.
It fixes some of those soft edges of like my game personally, but that's a me issue.
Yeah.
One thing that's cool with
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely nice to be able to quickly fix like emergency issues on shortage of power.
without having to worry about like R&D. Because I mean that's all their power is. It's just you always have R&D up and ready, and R&D usually, from my understanding, R&D is a big deal when it comes to first turn shenanigans. When people
Yeah.
like to just shift something over and then fuck over a side by jumping over and like muscling some dudes.
Yeah.
But like I was going to say, one thing that's really cool with the faction, or not even the faction, but with Ronin, is being able to use Lockjaw and put Ronin right in the heart of a bunch of shit. Because his power, his good attack, is the one where he has to be within 2.
Mhm.
And almost no one runs up to Ronin and goes, I'm within 2. No one does that. Everyone just stays away from him. So being able to just use Lockjaw and go, oh, here's a Ronin, deal with them. Give him power, and then he will smash your head in. That's really strong.
Other problem we have with Ronin, though, is like when he actually gets attacked, he's not overly survivable.
Right.
He punishes you for attacking him, but he doesn't actually live through it. And
Yeah.
so if he's the squishiest model in your list, like you can't just throw him in there. So
I know. Yeah.
it just feels like there's like one layer of synergy missing. Like I think they're okay. I don't see how. Like I play Wakanda and I'm just like, this faction does not seem possible that they're as good as Wakanda. And Wakanda is like one of the older factions.
Mm.
Well, I mean,
Playing.
playing.
They're probably they feel. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so the comparison with Wakanda is a good one in that you look at rerolls and you say, yeah, the faction just gets a reroll. You know, you get one reroll with basically attack and defense. That's great. A reroll. Playing against Wakanda, all you do is see rerolls. I'm going to reroll 3 of these. I'm going to reroll 2 of those.
Yeah.
And it just blows your mind. They get so much, and humans don't get anything like that unless you throw Shuri in there, and then you can start getting the mechanic going, and that might
you start
be good.
using Wakandan models. Then
Exactly.
You can get Wakandan level rerolls.
Yes.
Yeah. No. The problem you run into, I think it is a really good parallel because Wakanda has more rerolls than Inhumans. They also have a ton of board manipulation, but the Wakandan board manipulation moves enemy models. The Inhuman board manipulation moves friendly models. So it's a huge amount of maneuvering and rerolls on both sides. But one side has obviously more rerolls, and I would actually argue more important board manipulation. Like moving yourself is good, and that is really strong. But what's the ability for the Inhumans to move enemy models is basically Medusa.
Pretty much.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, and she can push at range 3, or she can place you at range 1.
Beast has
Range
a throw,
2?
I think. Yeah, Beast has a throw and Medusa. That's what I think. That's it.
Let's check. I'm curious
'Cause
what Beast's throw is. He has throw train or enemy model of size 2 as a power,
Mm-hmm.
and he can push enemies on his big attack. Okay, so yeah, he can throw size 2 people. Yeah, it seems a little lackluster to me. I think they fall within the power curve, like within the bell curve of the game, which is good. Like not every faction can be a top 3 faction, or you end up with massive power creep, right? Because everything that comes out is just better than everything else. But I don't think I feel like this is a lot like Ant-Man and Wasp. Not that they're as bad as Ant-Man and Wasp, but it's like the people that are going to play Inhumans are probably the people that love the Inhumans, which is fine. Like, you're not going to handicap yourself by playing them, but until some actual functional stuff gets discovered about them or more models come out, I'm just not overly impressed. It might be that I don't like the Inhumans, so I'm looking at them through the ugly goggles. I was like, I don't like your models. I don't like your rules. I don't like your aesthetics. There's no reason for me to reach for these models. Except for Lockjaw, obviously, who's just amazing.
They have, I think they have 3 models, and again, the first one cut is Black Bolt, because he's not one that I'm going to mention. But there's 3 of them that are really cool. Crystal's a long mover with some crazy cool attacks. They're not awesome, but they're good. Very, very solid. So you have a long mover with solid shit. You have Medusa, who is ridiculous. She's a 4-point model that's worth 4 points every day. Now, is it fit your list every time perfectly? Maybe not, but I would argue that it probably fits your list just fine. And then they also have Lockjaw. Those are 3 solid models that are all within that Inhuman framework. It's got to mean something. I don't know what it means exactly, but they're all really cool.
It really blew me away that Medusa wasn't a leader. It feels like we're moving into the age of double leader factions,
Mm-hmm.
and they literally have a king and a queen, and the queen didn't get a leadership ability. Because we're about to get Captain America 2, which is Falcon, who's probably going to be a leader for Avengers. We're about to get Sin for Cabal, which is probably going to be a leader. And so we'll have double leaders for the 2 original factions. We obviously have double leaders for Brotherhood and X-Men. It just made sense that this faction was also going to have a double leader, and it really surprised me they didn't. And the only reason I was thinking they might not is like, well, what if they just stay 4 characters? They already have 6 characters in their faction. Like, why don't they? I can only imagine they're going to add Yo-Yo and or Miss Marvel later on, if not Quake. Like, Quake and Yo-Yo would obviously be an easy pack, because they could be Avengers and Inhumans if they wanted. I don't know. It's just odd.
I also see them doing S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point, like as a faction. I could see that. It's a really obvious faction.
I could too. But they just seem to be lumping all the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff in with Avengers because we have the Black Widow and
right.
Hawkeye, which obviously they are both Avengers, but the Black Widow from the Black Widow movie is not an Avenger, so like she's not an Avenger at that point. I don't know. So anyway, that's why I think about the Inhumans. Did we actually come up with any good theory craft, or we just talk about them like in practice?
Well, I that's what I wanted to know about. Honestly, I wanted to know what you guys saw when they hit the table. So,
I remember saying, yeah, playing against Lockjaw is really annoying, and then I thought Medusa is annoying, but she's not really that scary. Like, she's good, but she's not like. Who am I trying to think of? What's a good 4-point character that's scary? Like, I remember being afraid of Killmonger. Sabretooth, yeah, I would much rather probably play against Medusa than Sabretooth. Like, Medusa's annoying, but Sabretooth is frustrating.
Yeah.
Venom. I would much rather play against Medusa than Venom.
That's true. Venom will break your brain. I fucking hate that guy.
Yeah.
He's a real nightmare.
Like, obviously, I'd rather play against Medusa than MODOK because he's like a whole power scale above. I'm trying to think of a character that's 4 points. That's like, God, that guy's a dick.
Yeah,
I'm gonna sort this by point totals.
Black Panther's way better. I mean,
better than her.
Yeah,
you think
for
so?
4 points? Yeah. Now, there's such a premium for that 3-inch reach, and also she has flurry, and also that's her builder attack.
Old Corvus Glaive, but he's not really 4 points.
No.
But I would be just a naked Corvus Glaive. I'd put on about her power scale.
Mm.
Man, there's really not that many 4-point characters that are like, oh man, this guy's great.
No, four's a bad.
Like,
four's bad. Four's there's some good ones and mostly garbage. 3 is where you look at the models that are good.
How about this? Maybe I am underestimating her because I'm looking at this list and man, there are not a lot of good 4-point models.
Mm-hmm.
Honorable mentions are Black Dwarf, Black Panther, Corvus Glaive without a stone, Killmonger.
She's easily
Ronin without a stone, Sabretooth, Venom.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's there with
Wolverine's annoying.
I think she's right there with Sabretooth and Venom as like top tier 4-pointers for sure.
I'd put her with Killmonger in like wave 2. I think Sabretooth and Venom are like top tier, and you could maybe put Black Panther in there, and then it's Wolverine, Medusa, and Killmonger in like that second tier. They're all good. I just like if you in a vacuum put Medusa on a table, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it's a lot of 5-die attacks. I get it. Like, okay.
5-die
Like,
attacks.
I'm honestly more afraid of Punisher than I am of Medusa. Like, that guy is such a dick.
Yeah.
It's like, headshot,
nah,
headshot,
no.
headshot. You're like, what happened?
Medusa with the reroll and flurry and pushes and her ability to move and place herself, and she also has a throw that's a range 3 throw. It's crazy.
I don't care that much about the pushes, though. Like,
Yeah.
when is she going to be standing in the middle of the board and have the pushes be super relevant? Like, yeah, pushes are nice. Like, obviously they're really good, but there's other characters that push you.
Range 3 and in any direction.
Okay, yeah, I get that you push me. Like, that's nice, but, like, she's not going to, like, move in and blow up important characters.
Well,
Like, the wild is nice. Do you know how many times you're not going to trigger the wild?
Oh, I trigger it every time. Doesn't matter.
Like, you didn't. You missed it one time, and guess what happened?
I did miss
you
it.
died! Like,
Fine, I did.
it's like, oops, I missed! And then she just, like, falls down.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, someone gets to attack me back. Game over.
Yeah, it's weird. It seems like there's a tactics card or something that's going to come out that's going to be like, flip all your guys back to healthy for some stupid reason. Like, because they just don't hold up. They seem to love being on their backside. I don't know.
I think they're okay. Like, I mean, yeah, they're better than several other factions, but I don't know that they're like a standout. They seem like middle of the pack, which is fine. You can release stuff that's not
Yeah.
the best stuff in the game.
I wasn't. Yeah, I didn't. My question was not, are they OP? Because I only play OP factions. It was really just.
Well,
Is there something
I'm
that
trying
you-
to say with the Medusa thing is that she doesn't have that level of fuck. How do I deal with this? Like, you look at Medusa, you're like, how do I deal with this? Like, you go kill Medusa.
Yeah, kill
Like,
her.
that's how you deal with it. Like, her defensive abilities are very minor at best.
Mhm.
Like, she's easier to kill than Angela, and it's basically a bad Angela. Okay. Like, she's worse than Angela because she's cheaper, but she's just not, like, crazy broken. Like, she's good. The pushing is really good, but it's not, like, going to change the game. Like Magneto always pushing is annoying because he's going to push you closer so he can kill you. She's going to maneuver you around, but, like, you have to... Like, what's she gonna do? Push you somewhere else within range 3 of her so she can punch you again? Like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Like, I'm not complaining about pushing. Like, Black Panther always pushing is a big part of his kit, but, like, yeah, okay.
The thing
like,
is,
she basically... It's like Valkyrie. It's like Valkyrie can get anyone that's size 2 off a point. We know that. Like, that doesn't mean she's broken. Like, she's broken because she one-shots people.
and you're running out of activations as well. That's another problem with the faction because you
Yeah.
include Lockjaw in there, and Lockjaw had to have gone already. Like, then the other guys
Yeah.
will go. So you've already spent an activation. So then your opponent's going to go. It's tough. It's very hard to get those pushes and to kind of get people off points at the right time. It's
I
weird.
do think Medusa is pushing the upper end of what is balanced with because she's got 12 hit points. She's got a reroll on all attacks and defense rolls. She has a minor immunity, but really you're talking about she has a range 3 attack that has flurry and push on all of the attacks.
Mhm.
So that's obviously great. Like, potentially attacking 4 times around with a 5-die attack, especially adding an additional reroll on top of it, is really good.
Mhm.
It is really good. But, like, now you look at, okay, what's Thor's problem? Thor has a 6-die attack that has a throw on it, and people don't play Thor because Thor is good. They play him because he's the leader of the Asgardians.
Mhm.
Like, so her attack is worse than his, I would argue, right? Like, Thor just punching you is better than Medusa just punching you, right?
I don't know, man. The flurry and it's a builder. He doesn't get
No,
a flurry.
Yeah, but it's an extra die, and it has a throw on it. Like, him triggering his wild means you're probably taking, like, 4 damage.
But he is going to. Yeah. If you have an ability to manipulate his dice, it's much, much better. But because she's always manipulating 1. But I see your point.
I think she's a great 4-point model. I would, you know what I mean? Like, she's just
She is a good
a great 4-pointer.
I literally just said she's like up against the cap of
Mhm.
what you can make a 4-point model.
Yeah.
My only point is like she doesn't like go beyond. Like what she does is what she does all the time. And so she doesn't have the ace finisher move that a lot of other characters have. Like she doesn't have the I'll spend 2 power to reroll this attack. Like she doesn't have that.
Mm-mm.
Like I need to put damage here. Like she's kind of just at the mercy of like my averages are above average, but I have no spike. Like so if you run into a time where it's like, oh, I missed both flurries. Well, that's like half the damage for your fucking team because Medusa is balanced around doing so much damage. Like, it feels like that's the team. Is like, well, I'm only going to actually deal damage with 2 models, so these 2 models need to do a shitload of damage.
Well, I think that's where the rest of it comes in that you've got the dog pointing a model out, throwing an extra die in there. You've got the reroll. You've got, Black Bolt's got the ability to throw an 11 dice plus an extra die. Like, I mean, it's in there, kind of, sort of. But...
Yeah, but, that's not an Inhuman thing.
Yeah, no.
Lockjaw can do that for anybody.
He can be any of that, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. What is it that intrigues you with them, Parker? You just like the Black Boltagon Carnagor or whatever the fuck his name is?
Oh, here, wait, let me do this. Hold on. They're new.
Oh, okay.
I did it.
New and shiny
Sold.
is good, but honestly, I've said it a bunch of times on this podcast. My favorite thing is consistent rerolls. I like knowing that rerolling 1 dice may not be something that I'm going to see every game. Like, good old Blackagar Boltagon may only ever reroll something into something important once or twice or maybe never. But over the course of many games, if you're willing to stick with it, you will see that average play out. It becomes better the more you're able to play it, and the more dice you're able to roll, the more times. So, getting them to roll more dice more often, taking advantage of that single reroll. I really like the reroll mechanic. Is the reason why I like Wakandans, and maybe I should just stick with getting better with Wakandans because I would enjoy how many rerolls they get and the fact that they also control scenarios really well. Denying scenarios really well.
If you just want to reroll dice, you should 100% play Wakanda instead of Inhuman.
Yeah.
but
they
They
also
roll
have
so many more dice.
They also have new model smell on them. They're new stuff.
And the thing is you could crack it wide open. They have a tactics card that allows everybody to reroll 1 massive reroll per that round if they pay for it, and then they also can take Shuri with them, and they also come with the native ability to reroll a die. So they can get more than their share. They can get more than their share of dice rollings. But is that going to crack the game open for you? Maybe. Take a couple more tactics cards, and I don't know.
I also like their tactics. I also like how they take the non-traditional tactics cards. They can, because you can expect that maybe you can get early game tactics cards, right? You're purposely putting power on somebody so that you can get the big early game tactics cards. I like that too. I like having a lot of power, and I like having rerolls, and they can do both of those things. Maybe other factions do it better. Maybe putting Vision in Wakandans. I've already built that list, right? Avenger Wakandans, I've already built that list, and I like it a lot because it's got a lot of power and a lot of rerolls, and this faction seemed to do it also. So I was interested in trying it out.
Mm-hmm. I think they're fine. I think
hope
they're
you
fine.
have a bad time. Yeah.
They've got one of the coolest tactic cards ever, though. What is it? The Terragenesis card that you explode when you're holding a thing and can drop it. That one's, to me, really funny.
Yeah.
I just did it on She-Hulk just to put some more damage on you. I'm like, just do it!
Yeah, it's like roll 4 dice, you take damage equal to the damage, and then...
If they die,
If they die, you get 2 victory points.
Yep.
Yeah.
She-Hulk was like 10 from dying. It wasn't for that.
She was lower than that, but it was pretty close.
I was like, I just need some more. More.
Yeah, it was, I think, impossible to kill her, but she was low. All right, so that's the end of the Inhumans. Finally, we just wasted about 40 minutes talking about Inhumans.
Delete it.
Yeah. All right, so it's gonna move us into From the Forums.
Forums.
where I go online and make fun of people for asking dumb questions. No, just kidding. This is when we go online. I find interesting judge rulings or just things I think people should know, unofficial rulings from the forums, and I disseminate them to you lovely folks at home. So first one we have today. If Ronan the Accuser is damaged and would subsequently be dazed or KO'd by an attack that generates another attack via the flurry rule or other such effects, does Ronan the Accuser stay in play until the attack is finally resolved and then make his attack? And therefore, would he be allowed to play cards like Sacrifice on the flurry attack? If you're unfamiliar, Sacrifice is basically an impromptu bodyguard from a tactics card. So the situation is, let's say Valkyrie Dragonfangs Ronan. And on the attack, Ronan would be dazed and Valkyrie triggers Flurry. So all effects resolved. Ronan's ability to, when he would be dazed, to make an attack triggers, which means he stays in play until after the attack is fully resolved, but then Valkyrie triggers Flurry. So the attack isn't fully resolved yet, because after that attack is resolved, the attacker's effects go first, and Flurry triggers, giving Valkyrie another attack. So during the other attack, she's obviously going to target someone else because Ronan is already effectively dazed, even though he's technically not. So she then gets to make the Flurry attack, but because Ronan is basically in stasis due to his rule, he can play tactics cards like Sacrifice to redirect the other attack back to himself. So that's an interesting thing that happens. And then Ronan resolves his attack and then is dazed or KO'd subsequently. So that's fun. Always good to know.
Keep that combo in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question is effectively the exact same question.
Oh, God.
Ronan the Accuser is KO'd by an attack. He triggers the Accuser, advances, and attacks prior to being KO'd. After the attack is resolved, can, and this is where we wanted to wait to talk about this later, Lockjaw use last-minute save to prevent the KO. Yes, you can. So you can trigger the Accuser and then prevent the death from actually happening.
Oh, that's cool. And really easy to do.
Yeah, this is where last-minute save gets errated. And so, yeah, we were talking about this earlier, last-minute save, and things people have been doing with Inhumans. The interesting things people have been doing with Inhumans is taking Lockjaw out of Inhumans and playing him with good bottles. That's been what's happening. So basically, last-minute save is dumb, because I think it was clarified that, yes, you can last-minute save on cards such as no matter the cost, and all you've got, and deal with the devil, and
oh jeez,
should I keep going? Like, all of the things that daze you or kill you, you can last minute save, which is dumb.
Yeah, that's
because
bad.
you're like, yeah, I really need Ghost Rider to all you've got, and then deal with the devil, and then you're gonna last minute save the guy you deal with the devil, so neither of them die. Play all you've got and end up with more models than I started with. Yeah. So Lockjaw and last minute, that should have just been an Inhuman only card, obviously. Like, I don't know how that card got printed as unaffiliated. That's ridiculous. All right. I believe Jeremy said he saw somewhere online where they said that this is going to be errated at some point to say enemy effect, but currently it does not. All right, this was just a clarification question because there's not a lot of timing chart stuff that happens before the game has started. And so this question is, when you are selecting crisis cards, does the third crisis card that doesn't get chosen from, is that public knowledge? Because there's no, like, official, like, what do we do with these cards? And I know a lot of people will take out the 3 cards and have their opponent discard one. And so the question is basically, do we get to look at that card so you can effectively know what your opponent is choosing from in their tactics card, or their crisis card selection? The answer is no. These cards are effectively made into a deck, and you shuffle them and draw 2 cards off the top. You may not look at the remaining card until all crisis cards have been chosen.
That's
just good to know.
Yeah,
Small
that's good.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. I like that. It's fine.
That's very what's the word? Intuitive. It's very intuitive that would work that way, but you never know.
That would be annoying Be like, oh, you
Alrighty.
pulled Gamma out of there. I don't have to worry about it. Ha ha. You dickhead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, hey, I discarded Gamma. Well, now I don't have to worry about choosing a Gamma-friendly mission.
Yeah.
Like, all right. So moving on, we're gonna try a new segment today. I haven't come up with a good name for this one yet. I've tentatively named this Meta Adjustments ? Like, basically, we have had the banned and restricted list for, according to Jeremy, 6.5 years now. And
7.
I said it's only been a few months, but he's confident it's 7 years. So, well, basically, do we think that there's something that needs to be adjusted about the banned and restricted list? Do we think there's a card that needs to be added to it? Cards taken off of it? Does the whole thing need to be rebuilt from the ground up?
Well,
This initially started with the question is, what is the next Tactics card that's going to get banned? And obviously the answer is Last Minute Save. That card is going to get fucking banned or ratted immediately.
Yep, that one.
And
will
you think
go
errata is
with.
just to errata to say what specifically? What do you think it's going to say?
Enemy effect. KO'd or dazed by an enemy effect, I think is the terminology that will be added.
And that fixes it.
Yeah, you definitely should not be able to last minute save all you've got. That's so dumb.
Or
Because you could field dressing.
Mhm.
You could field dressing a Ghost Rider. Or no, is there a more abusive way we can do this? You could field dressing a character, immediately activate them, play all you've got, and then last minute save them, and they still wouldn't be dead. You get 2 activations out of a dazed character, and they wouldn't be dazed.
That seems bad.
The other one that was crazy is the Wolverine one. When he's on his backside, you go to save him, and then you bring him back within 1 inch. He has all the damage on him, so you have given him, and then he heals to full at the end of his turn because he has healing factor.
He doesn't heal to full. He heals 2.
Well, he'll start with the 1 because you brought him back. He'll have 2. Yeah, so he would have 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, the important thing for him is obviously he adds dice to his attack rolls for every damage on him. But there's already a functionality that does that exact thing because he has exceptional healing available. So you're just adding another level of that. And obviously that's good, but it's not, like, unheard of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots of it. Which brings us to the second card. Fucking field dressing.
Oh, yeah? What's second card?
Field dressing.
Field dressing?
Clearly. Field dressing.
I've talked about this a lot. I don't know how you fix field dressing. I think it needs to be adjusted, though. Either that or just ban it and print a different version.
I think it needs to come from the model that's coming back to life. The active model, right? I think that's the only change. The
active
fact
model
that
needs to play it.
Yeah,
Active model playing it would help a lot. I think alternatively you could reprint it because obviously I don't think they're going to eradicate it. I think if anything we'll see a banning and a new field dressing air quotes that would be released later, or at the simultaneous, like the new one gets released and you ban the old one as it releases. I think you could do obviously the active character plays the card is very helpful. You could also see maybe it costs 2, but you can only field dressing characters that have already activated, or when you play it, they gain an activated token if they don't have one. That way you couldn't activate the character that turn, but you could undaze them. If you don't want them to be injured, you would maybe even heal 3, but they gain an activated token if they don't have one.
I really like that as well.
So it'd basically be med pack for a dazed character, but you would have to then cosmic invigorate them to activate them in the same turn. Or just say flat out, this character cannot activate this turn. Like, the whole problem with field dressing is not that a character gets undazed. It's that they are immune and then kill you. Like, that's the problem. It's like, I've done everything I can to hurt you, but as soon as they hit 0 hit points, you can't stun them, you can't stagger them, you can't shock them. There's nothing you can do to lower their damage output. You can't even move them away from your models. And then they're just gonna like Trojan horse your ass. Last activation of the turn, surprise field dressing, you're dead. You're like, okay, I guess. It's like, why would you ever attack a Hulk before he's activated if your opponent has field dressing? Like, why? Like, you're just asking to get fucking 14 dice to the face. It's like, I daze your Hulk. Cool. Guess who's getting field dressing? You're like, the guy that's gonna roll 14 dice? Yeah, probably that guy.
Even I like just the word when you're talking about can't be staggered. I mean, even if it added staggered, like that would at least make sense for the card. Like the dude's like wounded or whatever.
Yeah.
Add staggered. Then there's one less.
Remove the daze token and add a stagger token.
Sure.
Yeah, I could see that.
Something. Because they can't come back
Yeah,
stronger than they started. Like that's how I feel.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. Is when you field dressing, it's like the character is stronger than they would have been if they were never attacked because they have more power than they would have had previously, and they haven't been fucked with on the same level as anything else.
Yeah, you couldn't paste a bunch of
It's like,
stuns or anything
Yeah.
on them.
It's like, after the attacker's resolved, throw the character long or something, or like throw the character short. It's like, well, you can't. They're dazed. You're like, oh, well, never mind.
That and it creates
Yeah,
like
field dressing.
they even said when they were banning and restricting, like they were settling things down because of the feeling, like the bad play experience. That card
Right.
always creates a bad. Everyone feels nasty, like when you play that.
Yeah,
It
if you have an
always feels
experienced
bad.
player playing a newer player, even if they both have field dressing, it's not going to be fair. Like that card is going to determine the outcome of the game 90% of the time.
That's why. Yeah.
The fact
that's
that-
why I don't like it.
Yeah, when you're like, someone's played 5 games, the other guy's played 50 games, field dressing is the game, and the other guy doesn't know.
Mhm.
Like, so until he gets like 10 games of experience on how to deal with and play around field dressing, like the concept of like, well, it's not okay to daze this guy because he's got a buddy standing next to him. So unless I can split them up, there's no point. Like, I'm better off just waiting for one of them to activate and dazing the other one. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, and all field dressing. That's the part I do not like is that if you didn't account for field dressing, like almost every I'll go ahead and say it. Every other tactics card in this game, if I didn't account for it, I'm at a disadvantage. If I don't account for field dressing, the game is over. You know, it's just immediately as soon as you play it, it's you never even had your car. Gotcha, bitch. Like that's it. Like it's done.
yeah. God forbid you don't account for escort to safety.
Right.
Like, oh no, game
Yeah.
over, man.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
no one cares.
Yeah.
Heavy
I
ordnance.
didn't account for sacrifice or fucking what is it called? Trip up. Oh my god, I didn't account for trip up.
Right.
Like, who cares?
Right.
Like,
Even
Like,
some
that
of the
card
stronger
is-
ones, like I mean, I've had
field
this.
dressing was always more powerful than drop off. There was never a point in the game where drop off was better
They
than field
they just
dressing.
didn't like.
It might have been a bigger.
Yeah.
It might have been a bigger negative play experience,
Right.
but it is definitely not.
Yeah,
better.
they didn't like how drop off made it like solitaire, right? Like, okay, I'm going to take a 45-minute turn right now. You go ahead and sit there and enjoy that while I'm doing
Yeah.
80 things. That's why that is.
Yeah, obviously that's not great, and especially if you have other effects. Like, the rumor is there were interactions with Cable that they did not want to allow to happen with drop off, so they've not allowed it to happen by banning the card, and that way they could make Cable however they wanted to make him. I don't know if that's a true rumor, but I've heard that through the grapevine. But whatever. Yeah. So obviously, field dressing's real strong. I don't know if there's any other cards there that on that level. Last minute saves obviously really good, but man, yeah, field dressing's just crazy. On the topic of banned and restricted list, I think I had an idea about this like 2 weeks ago, and I want to say it was multiple banned and restricted list or multiple restricted lists. Basically, one for all the healing cards and one for everything else. So that way you basically couldn't take 2 healing cards. And so you can ban the card, or you could honestly just make 2 restricted. You can make list A, list B. You can only have 1 card from each list. You could fucking put drop off on the heal list, and it could be patch up, med pack, field dressing, drop off, and then the other list is everything else. And it's like, okay, you're gonna take drop off over field dressing? Fucking go for it. Like, I don't care.
I don't think that.
And if you're not taking med pack, then field dressing's not nearly as like powerful, because you can't just like activate field dress activate med pack yourself and then healing factor on top of it in some situations, or self-healing in some other mechanic. Like, you're not just going fucking crazy.
Even the healing cards being restricted, they're not even close to as egregious as field dressing with healing cards. Like, I would even be like, okay, you can release all of the cards. Everybody can take whatever they want as long as field dressing gets banned. Because those healing cards only work in the way that makes it feel bad if you're field dressing. The rest of the time, you're like, damn it, I didn't kill the model I wanted to. You know, and it's not as bad.
Well, I was just going to say that the healing cards definitely have less effect over the game when there's random stops and damage, like, or health moving at all. It's like, when the Daze token goes down, it's already too late. You can't fix anything. Like, I don't know. I personally think that we need to expand the roster of tactics cards. Like, only having 8 is incredibly stringent. Like, the fact that, like, I would give up multiple character slots for an extra tactic slot sometimes. Like, it's so much more important than it seems. Like, it's just so stringent.
Yeah.
I think we need to go to at least 10 tactics cards, which would be a pretty minor change, I think. Like, overall, like, you're just like, hey guys, you get 10 tactics cards. Nobody would care. Like, it'd be fine. Like, that wouldn't majorly... And, like, new players learning the game could still play with 8 tactics cards, and it wouldn't hurt their game at all. Like, just say it's like, okay, well, the official, like, events, we recommend you play with 10. Like, that would be an easy change. Okay, so I feel like the field dressing mechanic needs to exist in the game for the game to function as intended. Like, there's too many, like... Not being able to adjust the dice spikes, I think field dressing in concept is really good. The problem is, right now, it's not restricted enough. It doesn't cost you enough to take the card, it doesn't cost you enough to play the card, and it's not restricted enough in, like, requirements for positioning to make it not the best card. And so that's what, I just think that somewhere in there it needs to become more restrictive. And so if you only got one healing card specifically, then you don't have to worry about, like, well, now it's actually, like, a big deal. Like, not getting any healing for the cost of field dressing is a noticeable cost to pay. As when someone can take patch up and heal for 5 and you can only heal for 1, like, well, yeah, that's not necessarily as good.
Also, field dressing would then become like a more strategic choice with your list. Like, if you were piling 7 points on a model, well, then field dressing is going to increase in efficiency, because your ability to raise that model back up and get them another activation is going to be more than if you have all 3-point models. Because giving a 3-point model another activation is not necessarily as impactful.
Yeah.
And so,
well, also,
right now, field dressing is obvious in every list, but it should be a choice. It should be a choice, and it's not. Right now, it's just obvious.
Field dressing, selling vision models since 2012.
Yeah.
That's in the back. That's funny.
Yeah. And that's why I was saying, like, Vision and Bucky being in lists. I think we talked about this last week. I was like, yeah, like, everyone owns this model because they fucking had to buy it to get field dressing. Like, it's not like we're telling people to go out and buy new models. Like, they have them. They're at home. They're sitting on the shelf. Yeah, so obviously field dressing being really important, but if you had to make the choice between med pack and field dressing, and last minute save is in the meta, like, I don't know. There might be some games I'd probably not take field dressing. And like you said, situationally, if I knew that I had, like, larger health pools and I wasn't going to be standing next to each other, then, you know, med pack starts making a lot more sense.
It would be cool to see several versions of it and make them all, you know, restricted or whatever. Like, one of them is cheap, but you come out staggered. Another one's a little bit more expensive, but you cannot heal. And you know what I mean? Like, a bunch of versions would be cool.
Yeah.
You could build it around your list.
Well, I think we talked about this a little bit before, and I said I wanted to see, like, faction-specific field dressing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can only use it in, like, certain, like, the Avengers one would be, like, the generic field dressing. And then there'd be one where it's, like, the other character takes 2 damage to use the field dressing mechanic. But it's like a Cabal card. So it's like one guy is like giving his life force to the other dude. He's like, get up!
I really like that idea, but I also... one of the things I do not like about this game is the great disparity between tactics cards in factions. And that's actually one of the questions I
Yeah.
was actually going to ask you guys next. Speaking of banned tactics cards, do you think there is a faction-specific tactics card that's strong enough to ban? Because
Cosmic
we already got one,
Integration,
right?
yes.
I was going to say, didn't an Asgardian card already get banned? Didn't it?
Dune Prophecy is restricted. There's only one banned card.
Yeah.
Dune
Oh,
Prophecy
sorry,
got restricted because of the negative play experience specifically.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's actually too good, but it's definitely good. Like, I've played Dune Prophecy a couple games now, and like playing it on Punisher and getting like 7 dice auto fires that you get to do 4 times, like that's not nothing. Like that adds up real quick. She's like, here's 28 dice. And you're like, oh god. And then you like all you've got, and you're like, all right, just kidding. It's like fucking, what is that? 56 dice into your army, and you're like, well, that's bad. Like, I don't like it when he does that.
Jeremy, you said Cosmic Invigoration. Something from the
Yes.
something from the base box needs to go.
Yep. Well, again,
Well, it specifically lets you double the card that says double activate MODOK. Yeah, that card's good.
again,
Yeah.
and just the basis of negative play experience. That's another one where you're like, well, this is fucked up. I hate this game. Like, and anything that creates that environment, whether you're a new player or not, that's bad. Like, that runs people out.
I will say that the Cosmic Invigoration specifically is a lot harder to pull off if your opponent knows how it works. It actually has restrictions because you have to still be within 2 of the person, but both characters need 2 power, and you do up to 3 damage to the person you're playing the card on. And so there's a lot of stuff, like, if you're just paying attention that so-and-so is within range, like Red Skull's within range 2 of MODOK, well, I probably need to do something about that, especially if they both have 2 power. And you can just do damage to MODOK and accidentally stop it from happening. Like, it is way more restricted than field dressing, but yeah, letting it happen is just real bad. Like, MODOK double activating basically means you should just concede, because the game is probably over. Same thing with Magneto. If Magneto goes twice, you're basically done.
Mm-hmm. Those are just really bad play experiences.
Especially when...
Yeah.
Both of them can afford to play all you've got, where if you're activating one of those characters 3 times in a round, it's just like, GG, bro. Like, hopefully you had a good time, because this is done.
Jesus Christ.
And that's
in my head, I imagine the scenario that you're talking about. So they activate once, activates again, and then jumps through Doctor Strange's portal, goes and blows up another set of guys, like just blowing up the whole world with a model.
And that's actually the theme here. I feel like almost all of our restricted cards, or the ones we're interested in banning, are all like any tactics card that takes a really high point model that does a lot of work for a single activation or a single turn. As soon as you make a card that makes that model invulnerable, or it doesn't matter if it dies, or makes it immune while it's dead, and then you activate it when you want, or you activate it 3 times, like as soon as you start doing that thing, it feels awful to everybody who played 4-point and below models. It feels like, what am I doing? Why am I playing this game? You're playing Magneto the miniatures game. Why am I not playing Magneto the miniatures game? It's really...
Well, I agree with your observation, but I don't think it necessarily is restricted to the high point models. That's just when you gain the most effectiveness from it.
Right.
The problem is all 3 of the cards we just named, the All You've Got, Field Dressing, and Cosmic Invigoration, objectively break fundamental ground rules of the way the game works. That one says Daze models get to activate a model twice, activate a model 3 times. Like, all 3 of these things are not okay in a vacuum, let alone being put on a tactics card. Meanwhile, Heave Ho exists, which is competing for the same real estate as these 3, like, god-level cards.
Heave Ho!
And it's just like, how is this? Yeah, it's like Heave Ho, 1-2 Punch, and Repulsor Blast. Like, Repulsor Blast is, like, actually a playable card. Those other 2 are just jokes. Like, these are not cards. Like, they're not. Like, these are not. No one has ever played these cards, but, like, this is a good choice. Nobody has ever said that. Like, even new players like, I'll just throw 1-2 punching because I want to feel like looking through these 40 cards to find one that's better. It's like, this is cute. I'll play it, whatever.
Yeah, clearly you'll be sitting there on the side of the table and you'll look over and be like, what's he doing? And I go, God damn it. And you're like, what? My models are too far apart to play heave ho. You're like, what?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Heave Ho follows the same restrictions as fucking Cosmic Invigoration. You're like, what? Like, you've accomplished the goal or the requirements to play Cosmic Invigoration. Meanwhile, Lamppost, like, what the fuck? Like, how is this even remotely similar?
Heave ho. I love it.
Heave Ho.
That's terrible.
Fucking got him. Got him in one. I think it might be 1 power each, but I think it's 2. I'm gonna look. It's so bad. I love that they reprinted it. It's 1 power per. Oh, and they can only throw terrain. They can't even throw other people.
If you could throw other people, it might be kind of fun.
2 allied characters are within 2 of the same piece of terrain that is size 2 or less. They may each spend 1 power. Choose the terrain. Choose
that's bad.
one of the chosen terrain features and throw 1. Throw a medium. It's so bad.
Ugh.
How about this? This is another wording nightmare. Just because of like, who are we talking about? Heavy firepower. During a character's activation, it may spend 2 power to play this card. The next attack made by this character this turn, targeting an enemy character that is not within 3 of any allied characters, add 2 dice to the attack roll. What happens? Explain to me what happens now.
Oh, God.
It's like, well, you see, my cousin's brother's niece's roommate's house cleaner friend said that. You're like, yeah, okay.
It's like explaining.
Yeah, it's
like explaining how Longshot and Shatterstar are related. You're like, what?
Yeah. Well, you see, in an alternate timeline of a distant future past, they were clones of his dad's son. You're like, what? He's like, and they're in a relationship. And you're like, hold on.
Right.
It's like, what? Can we back up like
Right.
many steps?
Before they
Many
became
steps.
boyfriends, they were father, son, future perfect daughter lives. And you're like, what? Just what are you talking about?
There's some serious Back to the Future shit going on, except he didn't leave the car with his mom. And also he's a clone of his son.
Yeah.
What if you were cloned and then the clone of you went back in time and actually ended up being your father? So what if your clone ended up being your father and then you dated in the future? Like, that's basically Longshot and Shatterstar's
That's
time.
fine. That's filmed. It's a real time documentary.
Yeah.
Filmed in real time. So there's another card that should be on our list of maybe sort of kindas. Hired muscle is a legitimate issue at times and does cause real bad play experiences.
So I disagree with this card. I actually fought a lot against playing it. I will say that on the Mayor Fisk mission, this card is incredibly strong. Outside of that, I think there's actually a decent amount of counterplay, and you can play against it. And the fact that it's a tactic slot, and it's only actually super punishing if you have a multi-power character turn 1, which a lot of factions don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you're taking like mercenaries out of faction, and you're taking a tactic slot, and the tactic slot is not actually impacting the game other than scenario. I think it's okay. I actually think I'd like to see more cards like that that affect scenario. Like, you should be able to play tactics cards that interact with scenario. And the only one we have is like mission objective and I almost said Heave-Ho. Hired muscle.
That's going to be the
Heave-Ho, dramatically affecting scenario since always.
That's the new the Storm Crow of Marvel Crisis.
So how would Hired Muscle make a negative play experience? It seems to me like is it not fair play? Does it feel like dirty pool?
No, the problem you run into is, like, let's say you're playing, and I talked about this in a previous episode as well. Mayor Fisk promises to find missing witnesses, I think is the name of the mission. It's a secure on deployment C, as in Charlie, but you don't deploy a middle objective. It's only the 2 sides. And then every turn, the person who doesn't control it places it. So basically the person losing scenario gets to move it range 2.
Right.
But it's a secure that is a civilian token. And so you can play Hired Muscle while within range 3 of it to move it range 2. So think about the timing of last activation of the round. I play hired muscle. All your people standing on the secure location are now standing in open ground, and I'm standing on the secure. And so you spend 1 power to steal a 2 control point secure objective away from a group of people.
But can't they bring it right back towards them? But they don't get the credit for scoring it.
If they're also playing hired muscle, if they activate last, because it's an
No,
active
but I thought
card.
the way that
If you activate,
the way Fisk works, they move back.
no, they get to take it back that at the end of the round. Yeah, but you've scored
Right.
it. So I pay 1 power to gain 2 control points. That's what the card says.
Is it?
And in a lot of missions, that means you win. Because the secures in this setup, so if we just look at the secures, because obviously the extract is going to be its own thing, but the secures, like we've built scenario focus lists. So you've got Mayor Fisk, right? Let's say you're playing Web Warriors or Wakandans. So you've got a lot of board manipulation, and there's 2 2-point secures. You can overcommit to one side, and if you outnumber your opponent, which both of those factions tend to do because they don't have expensive characters in them, you overcommit to one side with your board manipulation guys, take that one every turn. And then 1 turn of the game, you spend 1 power to take the other one, which means you scored 4 points in 1 turn. They will never catch you on points.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is survive to the last turn, or until you get to 16. And so if they don't have hired muscle, that 1 power is... So if you were doing a 2-point even split for the whole game, 1 power means you score 4, they score 0. It's a 4-point control point swing for 1 power.
Right.
That's the problem with hired muscle. On the extract missions where there's like 5 civilians that are extract tokens, I think hired muscle is really good, but I don't think it's broken. I think it's only broken on the secure one because you can't... If you do it on an extract, even if you go first with Valkyrie, you double move forward, play hired muscle, you move 3 tokens. You move the center token and the right flank and the back one on the spider infected mission. So basically, Valkyrie will pick up their close side civilian, and the middle one and the back one get pushed further away. But they can still just activate a second in the game, double move, and pick up the middle point. It's just easier for you to damage them for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it harder on them. It's still possible.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with the Mayor Fisk mission is you could move, like you could take one of your long movers like Gwen, double move long, and then range 3 play hired muscle. There's no counterplay to that. The counterplay is activate last, and that you can't do that. Like that choice is made at the beginning of the turn.
I would agree with it would be nice to see more cards that do things like that manipulate the mission. I don't know. We'll see. Again, it just kind of creates a weird thing where all of a sudden, again, you can go up 4 points on some missions very quickly. Or even when you're picking up the extracts, you get to suddenly be up 3-1 or 3-2, and then it's their job to take it from you, which is really pretty big deal. Sometimes you just can't.
No. It's hired muscle's really good. I think it's only really, really overpowering in the Mayor Fisk mission, though. I'm trying to think of other things you could do to interact with scenario that wouldn't be crazy. They could do one kind of like the Venom Blast and I guess Professionals technically, but it's just so restrictive that nobody plays it. You can force someone to drop their extract tokens. More stuff like that would be nice, because there's missions like Alien Ship where like Thanos or Black Dwarf picks up the power core, and you're like, well, okay, well, they're never gonna lose it, so whatever. Like, it's so hard to actually get it from them. There could be a card where it's like your characters can't take damage from scenario elements this round. Like, that could be a pretty solid card, right? Because we have the cube fragments deal damage to you. The traps on Mutant Madman deal damage. Mayor Fisk does damage. Power Core does damage. Gamma Wave. Like, you could make Terrigen Mission does damage. You just play a card like cost 3 power. This round, your characters cannot be damaged by crisis cards. Like, just something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and so that'd be a little minor thing, but now you play Gamma Wave and not be as afraid of it. Like, or if your opponent's going to play Gamma Wave, you're like, I'll just spread out. Like, if I don't take damage for a round, well, that gives me several rounds I can stand out here and not worry about it.
Is it Goblin and Octopus that has the one that everybody explodes and drops them?
Yeah, well-laid plans,
Yeah.
You roll 3 or 5 dice per enemy character holding an objective or contesting one, and they take a damage for every wild or critical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
Yeah, that one was pretty cool. Yeah, I think we need more cards that interact with scenario.
Yeah, that could be. That might work.
But also, mainly, we need more tactics slots in your roster. I think taking 5 in a list is still fine, but like only having 8 total is really restrictive.
Yeah. Especially
Because we have, like, if you want to take hired muscle just to counteract your opponent's hired muscle, well, there's one. Field dressing, med pack, or other choice of restricted card. Then we have grievous wounds, because there's 4. There's 4 that should be in every single list.
Grievous Wounds doesn't work, Brandon. You know this.
And then, I know, but you still have to take it because you're going to lose if they field dressing you.
It doesn't work.
So there's those 4. Recalibration Matrix should be in every list. There's 5. We haven't even gotten to character cards yet. 5 should be in every list. Marked for Death, 6. Like, there's
Yeah.
just too many. Like, you can't ask someone to take cards that counter very powerful effects and then, like, hopefully you play against it. Like, that's just such a cheap ass way of game balance. Like, well, not all your opponents will have Marked for Death, so your faction isn't terrible. You're like, that's dumb. Like, so I play one guy with Marked for Death, I lose? Like, that's dumb. It's like, balance the factions, give us cards. Like, it's fine.
And that's to say, with all of that as well, like, it's still mostly okay. Like, it's still mostly fine. Like, mostly.
I think the game's very fine
Yeah.
right now. I think field dressing's the only super unbalanced thing, and it's the most fair because everyone has it and everyone plays it.
We all have mutual destruction in hand.
Yeah, exactly. We did have the arms treaty of Shuri, but then someone broke.
I had
the
to break
arms
it.
treaty of Shuri, and so now everyone plays Shuri now. I think we went a solid year with no one putting Shuri on the table in the store,
Mm.
and then Jeremy was like, "Let's try this out."
Had to
War
happen.
declared.
Had to happen. And then what did I do? I won the game with a heave-ho Shuri list that you didn't see coming.
These words have never been spoken before.
Heave-ho and
They will never be spoken again,
I will
Heave-ho
spend
Shuri.
and
one.
never once have they been true.
I'll spend one with Shuri and one with...
Jeremy, you guys came up with Jermagurt Constagon. I think that's the first sentence we've said on the podcast that has never been said before in human history.
That's true. That's true.
Was the Shuri Heave Ho list has never been thought of before. That was the one that nobody had ever said before.
you heard it
Yeah,
here first.
It's the George Carlin list of things that have never been said.
Yeah.
And the heave-ho Shuri list. You heard it here first. It's the new tech.
All right. So I think we need to start wrapping this up. We're starting to run pretty long. Parker, why don't you go ahead and run us through a comic corner?
All right. So Comic Corner today is actually in honor of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Hopefully, right around the corner. This Comic Corner is a little prayer that are coming soon. It's one of my favorite Avengers titles ever. It's called Avengers: The Children's Crusade. It's by Heinberg and Chung, and I love the way Chung draws the Avengers. I think he does a great job. He's done several Avengers titles. The Children's Crusade is kind of a mini event. It's usually found in a graphic novel version. It's just an Avengers event, but there are a ton of different Marvel characters that enter into this event. So, of course, the Avengers are there, but also a lot of X-Men show up because it's all centered around Scarlet Witch. And if you're familiar with the major Marvel event, House of M, Scarlet Witch had a nervous breakdown with her reality powers and basically went psychotic and murdered some heroes and started a brand new universe. Basically, in her out of her own psyche and her kind of self-defense mechanism, she created a new universe in which her father won the war of humans versus mutants and installed himself as the supreme ruler of the world. And the whole Marvel universe lived inside the House of M for a month or two, and then it was all unraveled, and Scarlet Witch disappeared at the end of that, and nobody knew where she went. And the Children's Crusade is the Avengers picking that up and trying to find finally the Scarlet Witch, to find out where she's been this whole time after the House of M. The reason why it's called the Children's Crusade is the Young Avengers, apparently the one Young Avenger by the name of Wiccan, is interested more than anything else because he and his twin Tommy appear kind of in the Marvel universe with full backstories, full realities. They feel like everything's, they feel like they've lived a normal life, but as far as anyone can tell, they appeared at the same time that the House of M concluded. Like they just didn't exist, and all of a sudden they did exist. And so the Avengers theorize that maybe Tommy, the Speedster, and Wiccan, I can't remember his name, I think it's Joseph, they are actually the Scarlet Witch's long-lost twin children that she manifested out of nowhere in her marriage to Vision. She actually used her powers to conjure life, basically, because she wanted to have children with Vision. And so basically, it's Wiccan going up against the Avengers and the X-Men, and eventually our favorite Doctor Doom, to try to uncover the mystery of what happened to his mom. Why does mom have a nervous breakdown to begin with? How did she get all this crazy power to rewrite reality when she was always just she was an Avenger and she was an X-Men, she was a Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but she never had the ability to affect the entire multiverse simultaneously. So how does she just get to do this? And then what has she been doing since the House of M? And it's really captivating story, very interesting, draws in a ton of heroes, super fun, a lot of knockdown, drag-out fights, and Scarlet Witch becomes one of the main characters. If you've never read anything featuring the Scarlet Witch, she's a much more interesting character than I originally gave her credit for. After reading The Children's Crusade, I am a Scarlet Witch fan now, and she's been a very important character in a lot of titles in the current Marvel Universe. She's still on a big redemption arc since the House of M and the devastating blow that she, gave to mutantdom. And so that arc kind of starts in the Children's Crusade because it's where you get to where she comes back into the Marvel Universe. So very important for the Marvel Universe, but also really important to understand Wanda Maximoff. And I like her character after the Children's Crusade. So I recommend Avengers: The Children's Crusade. It's beautiful art too, by the way. Absolutely gorgeous.
Nice. Alrighty. Well, this has been a fun one. I think we're ready to sign out now. Thanks for the Comic Corner, Parker. Mm-hmm. This is God, I can't even think. I'm too tired. I need to sleep.
You work like 3 days in a row. It's rough on you.
Also, less gasoline fumes. Also, probably.
My headache has finally gone away. I've had a headache for like the last 2 hours.
Oxygen is better than petroleum fumes.
I know
working
that.
in the mine.
There's no question that is true. It's just like, you gotta do what you gotta do. I know about oxygen displacement. I have 3 years of industrial safety classes, sir. That's why I've never been exploded before.
Exploded.
All right. Well, this has been Brandon.
And Parker.
And Constagon.
And thank you for listening to The Gang Dies in a Fire.
Oh, yay.
Oh boy.
Are we gonna allow the section of the podcast where Brandon rants for 15 minutes straight, like we discussed? You just get to rant, just a solid 4.5 minutes of you just bitching about something. I don't know.
I mean, it's my favorite part of the show. Are you saying we need to cut that out? Because it's a good way to get kicked off the show, Jeremy.
Oh, sorry.
I have already named this week's episode. Normally, I will listen to the podcast. Well, I will remember the podcast more accurately, and I'll try and pick out something we said or some topic we got
Sure.
on and make fun of it in Always Sunny in Philadelphia style. But I know 100% the name of this week's episode is "The Gang Dies in the Fire," and so I will now explain the reasoning to you guys. I don't think
Okay.
either of you know about this.
Probably not.
Okay.
I'm living on borrowed time. I'm going to die in a fire very
Oh
soon.
no, your house is full of
For
heaters.
one of many reasons. Jeremy got the second reason. All right, so just to begin this story, we have to start in the Wayback Machine. So if you don't live in Kansas City or the neighboring regions, you might not know. I don't think we're technically in a polar vortex. I think the term is cold as fuck right now.
Mm-hmm.
Although we're slowly climbing out of this pit we were in.
The day after tomorrow,
Let's see.
today.
The forecast for 24 hours prior was negative 15 degrees.
Mhm.
So
On Monday,
admittedly,
we
yeah.
were the coldest place. The Midwest was the coldest place on the planet on Monday.
Are you serious?
yeah, Antarctica was negative 40 or negative 28.
Yeah.
And somewhere in Nebraska was also negative 28 or negative 30.
Yep.
And there's like, what happened?
If you use the average temperature over the course of the day, Antarctica and the Arctic Circle were warmer than the Midwest.
Yeah.
Yeah. My
Nice.
favorite meme I heard was it's cold outside when my refrigerator is 50 degrees warmer than it is outside.
The temperature, yeah.
It is. It's 50 degrees
My
warmer.
refrigerator is has not run in 6 hours because I just leave the door open.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're aware of this. I only know this because I worked in the HVAC supply industry for about 4 years. But when you design a piece of equipment to maintain temperature, there's only so many ways it can do that. And so a lot of systems, like for air conditioning, for example, it basically takes refrigerant, which basically has a boiling temperature of below room temperature, and they expose the air to this. And through a very intricate system I don't fully understand, to be fair, it basically pulls the heat out of the air and then disperses it outside of the room or the structure or whatever you're cooling. And that's what the thing outside your house is. That's your air conditioner, the thing that spins and it's surrounded by a coil. And basically it's vacuuming the heat out of your house and pumping it outdoors. And so it basically if you use a heat pump, which they do in a lot of warmer climates, you literally just put the air conditioner in reverse and it just pulls the heat from outside inside. And they've designed this off of the concept of the air conditioner. It's basically a really efficient way to cut out a furnace. But your old standard furnace, basically what it does is you start a fire with gas and you push air through a metal thing that's filled with fire and you heat the air with that. It only produces so much heat, and so if your house is fucking cold and your furnace is not properly sized, your furnace will not be able to keep up with the cold environment around it, specifically if you don't have very good insulation in your house. Or if you live in the Midwest and your house is settled and the windows don't even close all the way because your house is crooked. Things like this can happen. And I'm sure most homeowners know about most of this shit. But because it's been so unstandardly cold, we get cold in Kansas City, but we don't get negative 15 cold very often. It's very rare to get anywhere near that. A negatives maybe once a year is what we get. And so it's only 15 degrees colder than it normally would be, but it's noticeable. And so our house, and I think you guys can attest to this, I would say that I don't mind the cold. I think that's a fair statement for me to say. And I think a lot of people would agree with that know me. I will walk around in shorts and flip-flops when it's 30 degrees.
I think of you all the time
Yeah,
whenever I see people outside and it's cold and they're bundled up with 18 layers. It's not
and they look at me and they're like, what are you doing?
Yep.
It's not that cold. You need to grow up. So anyway, we keep it a nice 65 in my house in the winter. We just set it to 65 and don't think about it. But it's 65 in the living room where the thermostat is. In my room, it's usually closer to 62. But because the furnace hasn't been keeping up in my house, I woke up and I want to say it was 48 degrees in my room.
Oh, Jesus.
Which is below my ideal sleeping temperature. Because I have one blanket, no sheet on my bed. And it's 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 a little brisk. And so then you get up and you realize that it's actually 45 degrees in the room, and you're like, oh, it's actually very cold. And I've been sleeping this for 6 hours. So I go let my dog out because I have an external access door in my room. And so I just let my dog out the back door. And so now my room is 30 degrees because it's, negative 10 outside. I just opened the door. And so it's been very cold in my house. And then because so many people are running, little electric heaters, the Southwest has a drain on its power grid to the point where they're not able to keep up with power production for the Southwest grid. The entire Southwest grid is behind.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing what's called rolling blackouts, where they'll just shut your power off for an hour in an attempt to let the grid keep up with the power demand.
Yep.
And so while you may have a gas furnace in your house, especially if you live in a colder region, it doesn't move any air without power, because all the fans that move the air around are all electric, even if you have a gas furnace. So you can generate a whole lot of heat in your basement in a 3x3 section that doesn't go anywhere, and so it doesn't do anything. Not to mention your thermostat wouldn't work. So anyway, all this has led to, well, let's go buy space heaters, right?
Oh, no.
But conveniently, I called my landlord, and they were like, oh, we'll run some space heaters out for you. So they come out and bring out space heaters, and let me tell you, space heaters make one hell of a difference. Because when your furnace can't keep up, just a little bit to get it to catch up makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So our house is now back up to 65 degrees where we're comfortable at. But this isn't actually why I'm going to die in a fire. That's just a little bit of a rant. The reason I'm going to die in a fire is I have some mechanical issues with my vehicle.
Oh, no.
Jeez.
You guys are going to love this. I don't even know how to approach explaining this whole situation. Basically, my fuel pump stopped working a while back. I can't even remember what it was, but I drive a 2000 Pathfinder, and it has, most SUVs, the gas tank is under the back seat. And so my car actually has an access hatch, which is basically this little 8-inch wide disc that sits on top of the wheel well. And you can take that out and you get immediate access to the gas tank. And so that way you don't have to drop the gas tank to get into it. And so last year in the summer, my fuel pump stopped working. So I opened it up, took the old fuel pump out, replaced it with a new fuel pump, and put everything back together. Been driving for I don't know, it's either been 6 or 18 months somewhere. It's probably 6 months. And yesterday on my way home, I started my car and I was like, man, it smells like gas out here.
Oh, Jesus.
And so I let my car warm up like normal, drive home. I didn't notice anything while I was driving home, so I just figured, someone had an old beater truck and it just smelled like gas by my truck. And next morning I go start my car, it's like, yeah, it kind of smells like gas again. I was like, well, I did just get gas the other day. Maybe someone spilled gas where I was getting gas, and it got seeped into those big bricks of snow that get stuck to your car.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, maybe it's just something like that. There's just a bunch of gas mixed in with the snow that accumulated on my vehicle. And then today, while I was at work, when I parked, it reeked of gas. And so I was like, okay, well, definitely smelling very strong gas fumes at this point. So I lift up my back seat, and you know how the old truck seats where they fold down, so you can have a flat bed in the back,
Uh-huh.
and the seat belts will drop down because they're not supported by anything; they're just loose fabric seat belts. And so I pull up the seat, and those are just soaked in gas.
Oh my God!
There's a pool of gas
Idiot.
inside my vehicle.
Jesus Christ!
Oh, God.
But I hadn't been smelling it inside the car because the seat had contained it enough that the vapors were just soaking into the seat cushion,
Oh
and
my
they weren't
gosh.
making it into the cab. And so I was like, how is the gas getting into my car? Because it doesn't come in through the body of the car. It goes under the body. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? And so I haven't taken the panel off yet, but I'm assuming what happened is it was so cold that the rubber tubes that go to my gas tank have cracked, right? Because it was negative 15 and I'm out driving in it. It's either they came loose or they were just so hardened because it's so cold that they no longer were properly sealing. and the gas was spraying out of the hose.
Right.
And when it was doing that, it might have just been spraying at just the right angle to be spraying like into the joint where the metal disc covers the hole to my gas tank. So I don't have like the proper tools to do this, and also it's like fucking 5 degrees outside, and so like I can't really do it in the dark in a parking lot. And even if I got it open, I wouldn't have anything to fix it with. And so I was like, well, I'll just drive home because I don't really have a choice.
Here we go.
I get about a mile down the road, right?
No.
And I have to open the sunroof because I'm getting a headache from the gas fumes. That's how much gas is in the car. So yeah, I drove most of the way home with a one window down and my sunroof open in 15-degree temperatures because I was getting a headache from the gas fumes.
Oh my God, Brandon.
So that was about an hour ago. So what have you guys been doing?
Wait, that was an hour ago? That was
1 hour ago.
Oh, Jesus.
Brandon, I love it. Oh my gosh.
So the whole time I'm like, all right, I gotta make sure to touch metal before I open my car door to prevent an explosion.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
And then I was like, hey, I should unplug this car charger I have. But then I'm like, wait, if I unplug it, it could spark. That might kill me. I'll just drive with it plugged in and just not change anything.
Oh my God.
So tomorrow, I'm going to open my door when I go to...
It's going to be like an Italian mafia car
pick up my car
bomb.
in the
Just
morning.
boom.
I know, right?
You're like,
I'm
hey,
going to wear extra layers. just prevent the burns.
you need to get your roommate to go out there and be like, hey, while you're out there starting your vehicle, will you start mine real quick? It's cold out. I would like you to start it so it warms it up. And you're just
really
watching
handy.
out the window. Okay, we're cool. We're cool.
Thanks.
Oh, man.
No, I have not done anything like that. You're right. That's a fireball.
I love everything about that story. Brandon's
Yeah, so I
running
still have to
fireball.
drive to work tomorrow.
Of course you
I'm going to
do.
try and see if I can do anything about it in the morning. But, you know.
I was trying to. At first, I'm like, you could. I don't know what you could do. What could you do? Oh.
Well, normal people would have a tow truck come and take it and then get it fixed. But I think you should just keep driving it. Just see what happens. I think you're the exact...
Worst case scenario, I run out of gas, right?
Worse. This is like, well, I mean, what else
Yep.
could happen?
Yeah,
That's like
I agree.
fifth on the list of things that could happen.
Yeah.
Every time I stop at a stoplight, I assume someone's going to just rear end me in the ice, and just we're both going to go up in a ball of fire.
There's no... So they're going to
Like
like...
two Pintos rear-ending each other.
So they're going to find this ball of fire off the highway. They're going to do like the black box investigation. And they're going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, you know what we concluded? This guy killed himself. Like, he definitely
This
killed
is
himself.
my note. Guys, this is my note.
There's
This
no way on
podcast.
earth anyone who didn't want to die would not drive in that vehicle. Like, they'd just be like, this guy definitely killed himself.
This is definitely intentional suicide.
Oh my God.
That's delightful.
Oh, boy.
Sounds fun. And at
So-
least you're
so
really
you're
far away
saying-
from work. That'll work.
Yeah, it's only like a 40-minute drive. No big deal.
Huh.
I mean, I'm kind of desensitized to it now because I've had the gas tank open, and I'm just like, like it's not that dangerous, right? Like I was literally like shoulder deep in my gas tank trying to get the fuel pump out. Like it's just like, yeah, it's okay if you're like half coated in gas inside your car. That's normal. Like
The inside of the cab of your car is just like the inner chamber.
you know when like you get the condensation on the windows, it's like that. It's just raining on the inside with gas.
Oh my gosh.
It's not really, but I just like to imagine that.
Oh.
My car is basically the opening scene in Demolition Man when like Wesley Snipes is holding the blowtorch. He's like, "Let's do this."
Yeah.
It's like about ready to blow the whole place.
Oh my God.
It's like that's me trying to like stop at a red light.
Mm. Well, you
Oh,
win.
hold on. I just started the backup recording. Hopefully we don't lose that.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, what could happen? It's not like it's gonna blow up, right?
Yeah, it's not like it's gonna filled with gas and just explode.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have a back seat, so how could it?
Well, the back seat is currently lifted up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I kind of had I had an experience in my car sort of like that. Like when I was flying quadcopters and using those their lithium batteries, and when you crash those things, like sometimes you'll dent your battery or get a nick in it and you don't realize you do, and those things are fucking toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
I'm driving I'm driving down the highway and I'm like, wait a second, I think I'm gonna black out. And like seriously, and I'm like kind of like seeing stars and shit. I roll my window down on the highway and like I pull over. I managed to get to like a gas station, and then I did what you shouldn't do, which is fucking throw your batteries in the trash can. And I mean,
Oh,
they're very toxic and bad. But I'm like, I didn't know what else to do, so I threw all my batteries away. It was like $80 in batteries, but like I
You
almost
didn't wanna
died.
die, so-
Yeah, I was like,
Mhm.
I didn't want to die in my
Yeah.
car. But I wasn't like, hey, somebody's battery near my car must be leaking, so I'll just keep driving because there's batteries in other
Someone's
cars.
battery on the highway near me must be leaking into
Mhm.
my cab.
No, I was like, look, this
Yeah,
is probably my thing.
I definitely remember driving home Tuesday and like driving next to a big truck. It's like, God, this dude's truck smells like gas.
Somebody's gonna die in that truck. Good lord.
Dude, you need to get your fucking tailpipe checked, man. That smells like straight gasoline. Meanwhile, my fucking car is just filling up with gas. About to drown in it. Like, dude, you need to get your car checked. I'm actually curious how much gas I've lost. Because I'm just looking at him like it's like a hatch on a submarine, basically. It's like, how much gas must be spraying out of my fucking fuel line that it's coming into the car?
yeah, that's a lot.
All right. It's a little bit of gas.
I've never had something terrifying like that happen to a vehicle of mine, but I did shower a whole chem lab with mercury once. That was...
No, that's good.
Speaking of
That's
like
fine.
Mercury's
dangerous
good
heavy
for
metals.
you. It's been used in professional medicine.
Yeah, I mean it's basically like soap. It's like lye.
Yeah. Yeah.
My chemistry professor had a really cool chem lab it was like two parts. The back half of it was a lab and the front half was a classroom. And so he was in the front half helping a few other students, and I was in the back. And he had this really nice collection of high precision mercury thermometers. They don't make them anymore, of course. Way too dangerous. And so he treasured this thing, and they were ancient cardboard box that they were held in. Which you see where this is going. I'm holding onto the box as I walk forward like an idiot. I'm not holding the bottom, and they start to come out. Like the bottom starts to come loose, and I go, oops! And instead of like trying to catch it with my hand, I go to just flip the box upwards to use, hoping that gravity will pull them back down into the box. But instead, I just slingshot them instantly across the room, and 8 mercury thermometers fly across both sections of the lab and smash. He is at the whiteboard, and all of a sudden from behind him mercury thermometers start exploding all over the whiteboard, and he just ducks and covers and freaks out and screams, of course, because mercury is now raining down on top of him. And I'm standing like, oh my god, what did I just do? And then the other 12 thermometers fall out the other side of the box and hit the ground at my feet.
Nice.
And so I destroyed like 20 mercury thermometers in the span of like 5 seconds, and there were beads of mercury everywhere all over this lab. I was able to. We put on gloves and we
Nice.
found most of it, but. So Jeremy's going to die of lithium poisoning. I'm going to die of mercury poisoning.
Mhm.
Brandon's going to die of. I
Excessive fire.
was going to say fireball. I was going to say I don't know if gasoline poisoning is a thing. I don't know if that takes years off your life.
Brandon's
like
going to die
lithium and
from
mercury,
natural
but-
selection at this point. It's just
Yeah.
Yes, Parker. Yes, Parker. I'm pretty sure fireballs do take time off your life.
That's true. A whole
This guy
lot.
was exposed to 11 fireballs. He only lived 8 years.
A,
of
whole lot
course.
very quickly.
Yeah.
oh my god.
Ooh.
a lifetime of gaming has taught me anything, fireballs definitely decrease your life expectancy.
All right, so Parker was sitting there saying, geez, look at all this mercury that's all over the place. What kind of asshole would have left that there and then just left, right? Like, that's the whole
Yeah.
somebody else's problem, kind of like your gas problem. Somebody else is leaving gas everywhere. Who's the asshole pouring all this gas in my car?
Come to think of it, I don't know what he did with all the mercury. I remember picking all the beads up that we could find, the rubber gloves. I wonder what he did with all of it.
He used it for gold plating clocks and making
I don't
hats.
know. Yeah.
Made some nice hats and gold clocks.
I want to say they gave out mercury pills to try and treat syphilis, didn't they?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
back in the 1800s.
Yeah, mercury was used. People used to wash their hands with the stuff. Like, they used all kind of crazy
Yeah.
stuff. Like, mercury was used for a lot of things way back when. Before now,
1800s medicine. We don't know what this is. Surely it heals people.
uh,
Like, that's just all they did. It's like, here's a glowy yellow rock. Just rub it on your wounds.
But
Surely
when,
it'll make it better.
I know that people who exhume dead bodies, like old graveyards and things that are decomposing, and they have to like transplant them, or like earth shifts or earthquake or something, and they have to dig up. If they find old coffins, they have to be really worried, because if you start taking them apart, there's always a certain amount of lead in the coffin with those people. Like, it's just still sitting there. So if you get exposed to it, it's the same as the person having it. So you have to be careful when you're dealing with old bodies in coffins, because there's probably lead in there with them. Sorry,
Watching, like,
there's definitely lead in there with them. Like, it's definitely some amount of lead.
Watching like the Chernobyl show and like watching like documentaries of like nuclear testing in like the 50s and shit,
Mhm.
you're just like, how the fuck did we make a nuclear bomb and not understand a goddamn thing about how it works? Like they literally just like, well, we don't know what this will do other than explode. So they got like an entire naval convoy in a semicircle around where they're going to detonate it, and they got all the crew onto the decks of the ship so that they could test the effects on people nearby. And then they told them all to sit down, because the shockwave will knock you down if you're not sitting. So they sit down like Indian style. And they tell them to put their hands over their eyes while closing their eyes while facing the opposite direction. And then they set off the bomb. And they're like, all of them are like, I could see the individual veins in my hand through my closed eyelids. Like, that's how bright it was. You're like, holy shit. And conveniently, all of them died, like, 10 years later. And you're like, oh my god. Like, how, like... Ugh, like, that's just so terrifying. Like you just like rampant like negligence of like human lives, like stuff like that. And like the whole Chernobyl situation is basically just how can you make this situation worse? Literally do the worst thing possible for the next 6 hours. Like, that's every time we go to make a decision, let's just do the worst thing you could possibly think of. And then they just did that for like a week.
And what's more, a lot of those, there were people there that were saying the opposite. There were people there who that were trying to do warnings, but individuals,
but it was all
egos,
like political bullshit. It's like, I'm not going to admit that this was a mistake, so we're going to keep assuming it's not.
Yeah.
And like one guy was like, yeah, we did this tester and it said there was like 90 rads. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, that's probably what happens. Like, yeah, but this other tester said it was 300 rads. Like, well, what's that tester? Like, what about that tester? Well, it maxes out at 300 rads. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, go get the industrial tester. It goes up to 2,000 rads. We turned it on. It read 2,000 and then it broke. You're like, it's probably 90 rads. You're like, that's literally what the report says. And you're like, oh my god. Like, they just assumed it was 90 because every other device they turned on broke instantly. It's like, why would it be anything other than 90? You're like, oh my god. It's like 50,000 and they thought it was 90. They just left it alone.
Yep.
It's gross. Okay, we should probably figure out what we're talking about today. You want to talk about Inhumans Theorycraft, is that right?
Yeah. I was excited to know what you guys had learned about him, and also, I was willing to do anything. I was willing to put together a list if we wanted to try that too. Absolutely.
I'm going to move this to currently playing.
Okay, that's cool with me. Jeremy had like 18 ideas earlier today, which I thought was really cool. That's not sarcasm.
I wasn't sure if you were just asking random questions or if those were topic ideas.
I was
Those had to be
just
topic
kind of
ideas, right?
putting them down because I was at work thinking about it, so I just wanted to write it down.
Okay. I actually really like this last one you said.
Which one was it?
What card gets banned next?
Oh yeah, I thought that was kind of a good one.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, I think I actually have an idea, so let's. I think we're gonna leave that as like a little topic.
Mhm.
I'm gonna do some forum stuff while you guys chat a bit. So go ahead and finish up anything we need to do.
I actually one of the things you said, Jeremy, that on here, the best current faction, we haven't really talked about. We've talked about faction abilities, but factions in this game are so fluid, or rather, like, and you could even play factionless. I really like the concept of best current faction. I like rating factions. I like looking at faction strength.
I like the idea of an actual discussion or even an argument of like what is the best, because I mean I think we agreed at some point that the spider people are pretty damn good, but I would also argue that criminals are also really good. What I wouldn't argue is spider foes suck. I think they're terrible. But all the rest, I think there's a good argument to be had.
Yeah, you got no argument. Well, I mean, they're factually unreleased, right? Like they do not have the models they were designed to have, so you can't really rate them.
And I like topics that are kind of like that, where we can make people, while they're in their car or whatever, kind of like argue in their head against us. I mean, things like that kind of get you going in a thought kind of, a thoughtful way. Because they obviously have their opinion as well.
Yeah, I like those kind of opinions also. Those kind of I like those kind of topics. One of the reasons why I have never been a fan of speculation topics. Like the next tactic card to get banned doesn't bug me because it'll also be talking specifically about things that we already know about. But one of the things I do not enjoy listening to, I don't mind doing it, but listening to, I've never enjoyed listening to speculation because I've talked about this with you guys before. I just don't. I go, yeah, nobody knows about anything. This is what's the best way to put it? It's not flimflammery. It almost feels like filler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's not substantive content that I can use. It's just hypothetical ideas that people like. And I don't mind doing hypothetical situations, shooting shit. But if I was going to listen to content, I don't like listening. Whenever any podcast that I do listen to about games starts speculating, I tune out. Like I don't pay attention. And
so
if
the
they keep
idea
doing
behind
it, I turn it off.
The tactics card idea is that we're discussing really good cards and what reasons they're really good, and are they overpowered? And if so, we know they ban cards.
Yeah.
We know they restrict cards. So there's a conversation to be had.
Yes, and discussing like which ones need to be restricted. That's not a speculation. That's like creating an argument. But one of the reasons why I like the idea of faction reading is the same thing. It's speculative. It's not speculative. It's opinion based and it's critical. I like any critical analysis topic over speculation based topics. That's personal when I'm listening. When I'm like, I also just really want a new Iron Man, and so I'll tell you what I wanted from a new Iron Man, but I don't. But that's entirely speculation and not super interesting to listen to. It's like my opinion, man.
I think Hulkbuster would sell a lot. I think that would be a sweet
I think
model.
Hulkbuster would sell it. I think Hulkbuster or Extremis Iron Man, either of them would be super cool.
Which one's that? I don't know what that is.
I think it's the nanite Iron Man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where it like comes out of his skin and covers his body. Yeah. In the comic books, they explain that with him getting this cool smart virus that called Extremis that reworks your immune system, basically.
From Iron Man 3.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they feature it in Iron Man 3 in a really stupid way.
Yeah, they do feature it in a dumb way. But also, we assumed that's what was happening at the end of Iron Man 3 when he gets the surgery. Like, oh, he's going to be, nanite Iron Man now. Like, and he kind of was, but they had the whole, like, unit thing on him too. And in the comics, to my understanding, he doesn't have that. They're literally just implanted in like storage sacks in his skin.
It's in his bones, the hollows of his bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
And
want to get
Extremis
that done.
Iron Man is super cool.
That seems awful.
The idea behind it is
So bad.
the reason why I think it's cool is he is constantly Extremis Iron Man. The premise of the comic, which is it's also Marvel Comics' first major comic book that's printed entirely with computer animation. Like nobody hand drew a thing; it was entirely computer animated.
Oh, really?
The comic was. The very
For
first
what?
one, the Extremis Iron Man. It's famous because it's entirely computer animated.
Oh, the comic is?
Yeah, the comic is.
I want to say I watched on Netflix, back when Netflix had a bunch of Marvel stuff. There was a motion comic where they basically did the comic, but then did like false like perspective motion on it.
Mhm.
And they had it voiced. And so you could basically watch the comic over a 45-minute like animated movie.
That's cool.
And so I watched that one, and I watched one where Loki took over Asgard,
Mhm.
and it was okay. Basically, the whole thing was just a giant like monologue about how Loki. Every time Loki finally empathizes with Thor, it's too late, and Thor hates him, so it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It's just an endless loop.
But
But the Extremis one's pretty interesting.
Yeah. It's basically he's in constantly trying to make his suit of armor better. He's never more than just a guy in a suit, and suits can't respond like your body and your thoughts do. And so basically he loses the arms race to this other bioweapon engineer who he knows, who makes this Extremis, which basically rewrites your central nervous, it rewrites your immune system. It attacks your body's immune system. Sorry, it uses your body's immune system to rewrite your body systems.
Yeah.
And
You basically just upload a new DNA blueprint into your
Yeah.
immune system, and it like copies that throughout your whole body.
right, and so he loses the arms race, and the Extremis enhanced bad guy just whoops his ass, and so he rewrites a dose of Extremis to basically just facilitate a stronger connection to his armor, and he makes his armor basically it makes his armor more perfect. And that's the Extremis Iron Man is the one that persists for a long time, when he's like director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and when he's through the Civil War and all that stuff. Super cool concepts.
So what are you gonna do? What are we gonna do on main topic?
Right now he has main tactic card to get banned. Or next
Next
card,
tactic
sorry.
card to get banned.
Okay.
I think we'll have plenty to fill in. 'cause
Yeah.
With Comic Corner and everything, we actually have a decent amount of news.
Were you following, Parker? Were you following like what Lockjaw could do with all the tactics cards before it got quasi errated?
No, I missed that. What's on?
They're so good.
I think we should save this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
save it.
yeah.
'Cause
I'm
this
shocked
is-
you didn't see
yeah,
it. You didn't look it
tough.
up and see it.
I
'Cause you're
see it.
fast.
Well,
Fascination.
he doesn't follow the community.
Yeah.
I don't follow the community really either. I'm clued into all the official channels, but I don't like listen to other people's podcasts
Yeah.
or anything. I don't have time.
So this is from you want to put that like from the forums or just
It's a forum thing, I
Uh,
believe.
Okay.
It'll find its way in.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I have tons of time in my car. Every day, an everyday home.
That's weird. It's odd. There's a lot of questions on the rules forums of people basically trying to game the maneuvering rules.
hmm Parker, do you actually have all the models? Have you bought a bunch of stuff, or are you just kind of like hanging out waiting?
Oh no, I have them all. Yeah.
He doesn't have the original Asgard releases.
The only things I
Oh,
don't
really?
have are the 4. Yep.
Yeah. He walked in one day and he was like, I want to play Marvel Crisis Protocol. Sell me the Asgard because I really want to play Asgard. And then never bought them and bought everything else.
That's not true.
That is literally what
I
happened.
said it was the opposite. I walked in and I said I want to buy Wakandans. Sell me the Wakandans. And then that's what I did. I bought the base weight in Wakandans. I never once wanted the Asgardians. I was super uninterested in them.
Nope. He wanted to play Asgard, and then he got sold on Wakanda instead. I remember vividly.
Oh,
He's like, I want to play Loki. I want to play Thor. It's going to be great.
I don't remember that at all.
Honestly,
I remember taking a look at Thor and being like, meh.
Yeah,
So meh.
I could lose all of them except Valkyrie. I can live without any of them except Valkyrie.
I'm considering buying the Thor box because Valkyrie's in it, and I think there's a mission in it.
Yeah, Hammers is in there, I believe.
Yeah. So that's a box I'm considering to buy. And after that, I bought everything because I wanted everything except Asgardians. I've wanted to play once, but I still to this day I don't want to ever play Asgardians. I don't want to play them. The closest I've come is Enchantress. I do like Enchantress a lot. And obviously I really like. I really need to play more Guardians games also because I really like Angela and I want to play more Guardians games. But I want to. But Inhumans are new and shiny.
They're not shiny. They are new. I'll give you that.
That's why I'm excited to talk about them because maybe you guys will convince me that I need to spend my precious playtime with some other things. Maybe something more worthwhile. We'll see.
You'll have just as much fun with them as anything else. It's fine. They're fine.
Okay.
Actually, they do something different than Asgardians do. Asgardians, the problem with them, I feel, is that there's no dice modifications. So you drop your dice and you stare at them and you go, fuck. But then they'll throw a house at you. So
Yeah. The thing about Asgard, though, like he said, they don't rely solely on their rolls. So
yeah, they
their
do
way
plenty.
to fix dice is to ignore them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They come with charges. They come with things that help. I mean, they're okay. Whereas, yeah, Inhumans have different ways, and if you can get a bunch of rerolls and stuff. They do have one of the cooler missions. I so want to do their mission with them. I can't believe you fucking pulled it last time too. When me and Brandon played, I had the mission. I'm like, all right, take one. And he fucking pulls the Inhuman mission out of my pack. I'm like, damn it!
Ah.
You took alien ship out of mine. We both pulled a 20-point mission. We're like, damn.
Ugh. Yeah. I just wanted Poison Clouds to do something, goddammit. I wanted their poison ability to work.
Yeah,
Look
they're
how
all
I'm
immune
not
to
being-
they're all immune to poison, right?
Look how I'm not being poisoned right now. Look how it's not
Look how
affecting me.
Look how I'm not poisoned.
Look how I'm dazed and also not poisoned. That's Inhumans. They're fucking loot pinatas is what they are.
loot
Yeah.
pinatas.
They're loot pinatas. I'm going to gather this hammer right here and I will drop it right there.
Oh.
All right, I'm going to use the restroom, and I'll be ready
Yeah.
to start. I got a couple forum things.
I'm gonna
Not many.
get this. I'm gonna get a noodle water.
I'll be back. Maybe we should... Here, Jeremy, what do you think? Should we modify this to banned and restricted speculation? I guess, yeah, we'll do this. I'll add that to the topic list at least.
How long ago did they ban? They
That's,
actually ban restrict cards. I mean, we might be due.
It wasn't that long. It's like 2 months, I want to say.
No.
3 months, maybe at most. I
No,
would
it's been
think.
6 months.
What? 6 months? You think so?
Drop off hasn't been around in forever, man. Forever.
I guess drop off has been a bit. I'd say like November at the latest, though. That's like 4 months. 6 months?
Man, I feel it's been a while.
September? Before Thanksgiving. You think it was before Thanksgiving?
Yes.
God, I guess it could have been. Wow. Oh, man. All right, well, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Hmm. get my second shot tomorrow.
Hey.
Yeah. Then I get to be sick for 2 days. Boo.
Boo.
So, I've heard two different things, and I hear, or the internet basically says that Lockjaw is a dog, has been a dog, is a dog. I've also heard on different places that Lockjaw was a person that turned into a dog. What's the word on that? Pretty sure dog.
No, I thought he was a dog that was exposed to Terrigen Mist. I thought that was always
Okay.
his origin.
People could have been mistaken. I was just because I was like calling a guy the goodest boy and like talking to him the way the people. I'm like, this is so insulting.
What's that? What did you say?
You know the way everybody's like, oh, he's the goodest boy. I'm like, the dog's like woof when he's really saying, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah. He was born on Adelan. Yeah.
To your understanding, he's a dog, right?
Yeah, he was a dog that.
Yeah.
He was a dog exposed to the Terrigen Mists, and yeah, I don't think there's anything.
Okay. He was exposed to gasoline in his vehicle. Maybe that's what Brandon's doing. He's trying to Terrigen Mist himself using gasoline.
Yeah.
He's going to bond himself to his car.
It says he was born from the Inhumans' experimentation on canines. His mother had been brought to Adelan as a puppy and experimented on by the Surgeon Supreme. She was impregnated by her own cloned genetic material and gestated 5 puppies with the purpose of performing terrigenesis in the womb. Lockjaw was successfully mutated, while his siblings were not, and before the surgery could remove them from the womb for further experimentation, he teleported his siblings to 4 different locations: Brooklyn, the Savage Land, Wondergrim Mountain, and a different dimension, Earth, before returning and appearing to be the only baby born.
Okay. It seems legit. That's pretty specific.
Yeah, that's...
What's specific?
2 things. Number one, I was confirming with Parker that Lockjaw is in fact a dog, not a person turned into a dog, and also that your vehicle is full of Terrigen Mists, and you're trying to turn yourself into an Inhuman using gasoline and carbon monoxide.
If I was gonna get superpowers, I'd be super depressed if I turned into an Inhuman. Like that's like the worst kind of superpower.
Hold on.
I'd have to change my name to like Brandagon Persigon or something like really dumb.
I really like that you're... for a second there, when you said that the first, you're like, if I was an Inhuman, I'd be super depressed. Like, that is your power, is super depression.
Yeah.
You're just really sad.
Oh my god.
But you're sad, but...
Because...
Go ahead.
Everything in Inhumans is backwards. Because you're like, if I told you, it's like, all right, Parker, you got superpowers. You have control over all of the elements. And you're like, well, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, but you're like a flunky. Like, you're just kind of okay. You're not really important. It's like, Jeremy, your toenails grow super long. So you're like S-tier power level. You're like, how is this possible? Like it doesn't make any sense. The dumber your power, the more powerful you are.
Yep.
That's like, I can scream really loud. But not really. I don't really scream really loud. Just me attempting to talk damages things around me. And you're like, that's not useful. Can you stop?
We just need to figure out how to like open like other dimensions. I think that there's some sort of like HP Lovecraftian / like powers that we can obtain. I don't know.
My guy's power is when he like wiggles his hands really quickly, he opens a portal to the giraffe dimension. Giraffes just come pouring out. Like that's his power.
Snakes.
Like that sounds like a fucking Inhuman. Yeah, just snakes.
Just snakes.
What does the snake dimension look like? It's just a bunch of snakes. You're like, what do you mean? It's like, no, it's just a pile of snakes is what the dimension looks like. Then if you zoom in, it's just a giant space filled with more snakes.
Oh, God.
All right. Let's get into this before we fucking take 3 hours. That's pretty solid preamble right there. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. All right, where do we got? Oh, no, we still have edits from last week. Full disclosure, guys, I have not even had time to edit last week's podcast yet.
Oh, no.
We just straight missed a week.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. Episode 21. Home intro. And then episode 22. Oh man, I got gas all of a sudden. Drink too much water.
Has been saving that one?
What do you mean?
No, I don't know.
Oh, the burp?
Yeah.
No, that's just drinking water. I get gassy when I drink a lot of water. All right. Trying to think if there's anything I can say before we sign off, because there's a bunch of stuff I want to say, but I don't want to say on recording because I don't like spoilers. Oh, yes, there is. So Scarlet Witch, I told Parker about this. I don't know if Jeremy was there or not, but I watched the animated show Wolverine and the X-Men on Disney Plus.
Uh-huh.
And all of the mutants are moving to Genosha because Genosha is where Magneto set up his sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And this is before Gambit has joined the X-Men in the storyline. And so someone hires Gambit as a master thief to go steal Magneto's helmet so that they can send in, I think it's Emma Frost, as like an assassin to kill Magneto. And the humans are backing all of this. And it's Senator Kelly and the president and all this stuff. And so Gambit shows up and just walks onto the island. He's like, "Hey, I'm Gambit. Like, they hired me to steal your helmet." And you're like, "What the fuck?" And so he gets immediately thrown in prison. And then eventually he makes friends with Scarlet Witch. And then he gets let out because he explains that he wants to join the mutant cause and he doesn't want to be part of the human world anymore, which is obviously a ruse. But anyway, he ends up meeting up with Magneto's third kid, his second daughter,
Polaris?
Lorna?
Yeah.
Lorna.
That's Polaris,
What?
yeah. Lorna, it's Polaris.
Polaris, yeah. Lorna. This is long before she's Polaris. She's still just a girl at this point.
Oh, okay.
But she's like, 16-ish. Like still pretty young, and eventually they're doing like this sneak away and like, pillow talk stuff behind bushes and stuff, and she's like obviously very taken with him, and he's a total shithead because he's Gambit. He's like this fucking womanizing like dirtbag. And eventually it gets like he's been there for like a week and he's like, "All right, it's time to fly the coop." And so he sneaks in and steals the dude's helmet, tells Lorna to meet him at his boat, and he tells her where the boat is. And so they go to meet up, and she gets there and she's like, "Why do you have my father's helmet?" He's like, "It's just business. I gotta go." And like, she's like betrayed her father and done all this stuff for him, and he's like literally leaving her on the shore. Like, it just like, "Peace out, I'm gone," and just drives the boat away. And she's like, "Why are you leaving me?" He's like, "I was gonna come with you." He's like, "I don't need the extra weight." Like, literally just the worst thing you could say. And then the helmet floats up out of the boat, and he's like, "Oh, god damn it." Like, of course she has her father's powers. And then the helmet just plunges through the bottom of the boat. And he just like looks ahead as the boat starts sinking. He's like, "And her sister's temper."
Yeah.
It just like sinks off the shore of Genosha. And then she floats the helmet back to shore and walks away. And he's like, "Well, this didn't work." Like, he's like, "You should not have fucked with her. Like, you should have just left her alone."
Dirty.
It was pretty funny.
Dirty Cajuns.
And then the show takes place in like multiple timelines simultaneously because Professor X is using an advanced version of Cerebro to send his consciousness back in time to speak to the X-Men to tell them how to stop the apocalypse. And so in the future, Polaris is like one of the like 20 remaining living mutants, and she lives in this desert wasteland that is like her realm. And so she has taken over basically half of the United States as the like wasteland. And the Sentinels don't go to the wasteland, and you don't find out why until the X-Men have to flee into the wasteland to survive. And they find out it's because that's where Polaris lives, and she just like shreds all the Sentinels that get close. And so they find out it's actually safe here as long as Polaris doesn't kill you. And they're like, "Well, we'll just stay here for a while." And then they get captured by Polaris, and it's pretty funny. And she's basically like the big bad of the later story arc, outside of Master Mold.
Is she a bad guy?
It was a Polaris?
Yeah.
Well, she's like she's like Magneto, basically. She's so like emotionally destroyed that she'll never ally with anybody, but she does agree the Sentinels are bad because they killed her family. But she's not willing to help the remaining mutants fix everything. It's so the Wolverine in the X-Men show, it's written for probably like, teenagers. Like, it's not overly developed. It has decent art, but the later seasons are actually pretty good.